Hello and welcome to episode 379 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly Podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and let's say that reports of my leaving the podcast have been greatly exaggerated. I am going to host today's episode. I will not be hosting episodes next month, so this is not a full return to Retro Encounter for me. We'll explain more. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the episode. But we're here to bring back an old Retro Encounter standard, the RPG Fantasy Draft, because it is fantasy sports season, ramping up very soon if you enjoy the American football. And frankly, I haven't done one of these in a while, and it sounded like a great idea. But who is going to be competing in my League of Final Fantasy? It is Lucas Greene.
Hello.
And Aleks Franiczek.
Hello.
And Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
And Alana Hagues.
Hello.
Oh, I'm not the only person making a return to Retro Encounter after a bit of a hiatus.
I know, right? It's like semi-regular now. I just come back whenever I'm summoned, which is apt, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some summoning and or summoners going on in today's draft, which I alluded to earlier. We're doing another one of our RPG fantasy drafts, this time about Final Fantasy. We did a Final Fantasy draft in autumn of 2019, but that was so long ago that it's definitely been enough distance to do this again with a new panel. I was on that episode in 2019, but I can guarantee that I am not going to be drafting the same characters. I'm in with a new game plan, a new draft board, and I'm excited to see exactly how happy or incredibly frustrated I will be after doing this for an hour with this group. But listeners, in case you don't know how fantasy drafts work, basically we are each creating a team made out of Final Fantasy characters or concepts with specific rules for the order that we get to pick different characters or concepts. And once someone is selected, no other player can choose them. So so the draft order and your draft strategy does fall into play here. And we predetermined the order before recording. It's going to be the first 5 picks are Lucas, then myself, then Zach, then Aleks, then Alana, and then in reverse order in a snake draft format. But before we move further with explaining, let's talk amongst ourselves a little bit. Zach, the last time you were on a draft episode was the Xeno draft earlier this year. Is that correct?
That's true.
How do you feel?
So.
How do you feel about your performance in that draft and then about tonight?
You know, I could have done a little bit better. I feel like I was a little too focused on the most recent game I had played, which was Xenoblade 3, and I'm gonna do better this time.
All right, good to hear. Alana, I think the last one you were on was the Pokemon draft last year. Is that correct?
I think so. I think that might even be the only draft I've been on. But no, I've been on a Tails
Yeah,
draft.
you're on the
haven't
Tails
I?
draft. No, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the last one I was on, which was over a year ago now at this point.
Yeah, I think it was spring of 2022, so a little bit over a year ago.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Now, I've done almost all of the drafts that we've held on Retro Encounter. I wasn't in the Xeno draft, but I was in all the others. And of the 5 of them, I think I did well in 3, okay in a 4th, and I'm still disappointed in how underprepared I was for the Suikoden draft. But I am much more prepared now, and I feel better about now than I did in the last year. Lucas and Aleks, this is the first Retro Encounter draft that either of you have done. Starting with you, Lucas. I think you mentioned that you listened to some of the previous draft episodes. What are your ideas going into this Final Fantasy draft?
My 2 main thoughts going in were, I'm hoping I get a little bit of an advantage by everyone else having some recency bias for 16, since I haven't played it yet, and to draft around a theme rather than just trying to go for the hot picks.
I can say that it is very likely I have some 16 recency bias, but Lucas, you and I have the first and second picks of the draft, so people will figure out our strategy possibly very early. Aleks, this is also your first fantasy draft with Retro Encounter, but how familiar are you with the drafting process or silly video game drafts of this nature?
I mean, not super familiar besides like what I've listened to on Retro Encounter already, but I really do live for this sort of rule-based conversation nonsense where it's like, oh, here's a fun, silly format that we can all take too seriously, and have all kinds of conversations come from that. So really looking forward to being here today.
No such thing as too seriously. We're here to win.
Oh God.
I am going to win this podcast.
Oh God. The min-maxers are here already.
I've
Well,
already won
you-
in my heart.
Yeah, you have to have as many people level up with Odin as possible so that the ATB speed advantage takes place, right? Right? I mean, of course.
Yes. I mean, that's true.
Unless you're playing the advanced version, and then Cactuar just throws it all into a garbage disposal.
So,
But-
so what's the formula that determines who's the winner at the end? Do we have that written up yet?
Only I have that written up somewhere. So I'll just twist the events of the draft in my favor privately long after we're done recording. But I'm really curious to see how this goes, so I'd like to get right to it. But first, we should go over a few more rules. We mentioned the snake draft order already, but we also have 8 positions to draft. First, a main character. Then second, third, and fourth are side characters, so 3 characters other than a designated main character. Then 1 villain, 1 job class, 1 Final Fantasy summon, and then 1 flex. The flex can be any previous category or any character or monster from a Square Enix or Square Enix game. So that flex can be a whole lot of everything, but you can go back into the Final Fantasy well for that one if you like. But now the actual drafting has officially begun. Lucas, you have the first pick in the Retro Encounter Final Fantasy Fantasy Draft 2.0. Who's it going to be?
Well, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to go first so I could pick a direction a little bit more. But I'm going to start off with one of the contentious picks, which is Celes from FF6 as my main.
Good pick. Good pick. Good pick.
Interesting. Celes was on my board. I drafted her in 2019. I don't know how long I would have waited, but yeah. So you crossed something off my board. Congratulations, Lucas.
Yeah, she's an awesome character. She has a lot of variety to her. Can use most of the equipment in the game. Good magic user. Hits all the buttons.
And Runic is just a very, very cool, unique ability to just absorbing magic. Considering how strong magic is in most of these games, that's pretty OP.
Yeah, for a handful of specific boss fights, Runic is awesome. Sometimes I just forget I have it because she's also like an elite attacker and magic user. FF6 is sort of weird. Not very many other games let you your main mages are also your main swords people.
I mean, they're just the best characters.
Yep.
Also, she's a great singer, so that's just +1.
I know, right? For her first time as well, like,
Yeah,
damn.
singing an entire first act of an opera, your first time ever performing in front of a crowd, is incredible. So, is she also use the songstress job from Final Fantasy X too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh no, have I given away part of my draft? You don't know. Nobody
I mean, I
knows.
think that even outside of how good she is in battle, I mean, I think the most impactful moment in the entire game, personally, is when she walks up to the cliff and her theme is playing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that she is such a critical part of what makes the last portion of that game work, because that moment is so dark, that I think that she's a phenomenal pick. She was high up on my board. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, she was number 1 for me. So congratulations,
Wow.
Lucas. And
And-
like Zach was saying, she's just got such a great character arc. The fact that she starts off as a general of the Empire, has to live with all that regret of being complicit and all that, and ends up being like kind of the motivator in the last half of the game is it's really, really interesting, really cool character.
I guess we were asking for this, having 60% of the Final Fantasy VI panel on the Final Fantasy draft episode.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess
But
that
all
is a
5 of us
recency
in
I
bias.
podcast
was
are
going to
about
say,
6.
Oh, that's true,
technically it's
yeah.
100. Yeah.
yeah, that's true because there was an older Final Fantasy VI episode before the recent ones. But Celes was on my board. She probably was not going to be my pick in the first 2 rounds. But so you have not ruined my draft plans, Lucas. Only slightly compromised them. But so now I have to try and make a good pick with the second pick of the first round. Oh no. I have some ideas. I really think that this person is going to be threatened by Zach or Alana in the first 2
Oh
rounds.
no.
So I have to. I'm going to draft Clive as my main character.
Phew. I did not have Clive.
Clive is the best protagonist in the history of the series. You're
he's-
killing me, bro.
He's
is.
awesome. This is gonna. I do not mean this in a cynical manner. But I really think that Clive was like designed in a laboratory to appeal to as many people as possible because he's somehow edgy and a sweetheart, and he has the noblesse oblige of being a prince, but also he was a slave for 13 years. He's also so damned handsome and somehow aloof to everyone and friendly to everyone. He is really an everyman main character that is so likable and is so accepted by the fans and is so much fun to use in combat. Holy moly! Uh, I love Clive, and and Clive was on my board, and I'm like, I would like to have Clive on my team. Is there a chance that Zach drafts him in the first 2 rounds? There is. I have to go now.
Very high possibility. In fact, it was my plan to get him coming back around.
Yeah. See, I wasn't sure who to pick first. But Clive was a contender, and I'm like, I'm gotta go for him because and then with Celes being gone, it's like, well, that's one possible main character off my board. I mean, do I really want to forgo Clive and save Lightning for the 8th round or something? I don't know about that.
I didn't know we were allowed to draft Game of Thrones characters here.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's definitely got some Jon Snow in him, but
He definitely does.
Oh yeah, a little bit. And I mean, they mentioned the North so many times at the beginning of that game.
Oh
I was,
my
yeah.
god.
I was already feeling Game of Thrones.
And
Um,
the Iron Islands or whatever they
right,
call
and
it.
his
Yeah.
mom hates him. I mean,
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's-
the most hateable character is the is a usurper queen. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's oh man.
there's definitely a lot of Game of Thrones there, but I think Clive, I think the way you put it, I never really thought about it that way. Like this idea that he appeals to everybody in some way, is a really good way of putting it. Because if you look at the trailers or the way he's presented before the game starts, you get this idea that he's going to be like this like madman out for revenge, like some like I don't know, a little bit of Squall, a little bit of I don't know, some really angry guy. Squall's angry too, but you know what I mean. But he has such a great arc, and he's so believable as a leader by the end, even though like they somehow managed to laboratory create him. Like I believe that people would follow him. And you're right, like he's such a god in combat, and I've been on random complaining about this, but like he's so awesome that he makes the game easy,
Yeah,
which makes him really cool.
Oh, he is.
The game is not challenging. I mean, maybe I haven't tried Final Fantasy mode, the New Game Plus
It's
version.
really not that challenging either.
Okay. But part of why it's not challenging is because Clive can do a lot. He's I mean, and the combat's very very flashy and dramatic and consistently fun. And every time I got new iconic powers, I was able to like just seeing the new stuff Clive could do was it was incredibly fun. Just like the game encourages messing around with your loadouts and experimenting, and you can refund your points at any time. It's whatever. I think Clive was a joy to occupy the life of for 40 hours or so. So Zach, Celeste, and Clive are unavailable to you, which maybe is a point of frustration. But
A little bit, yeah.
but
They
you-
were they were the top 2 main characters on my board, so I gotta kind of figure that part out.
Well, let's see. Lightning is still available, but who?
You know,
Lightning
spoiler
is
alert,
cool.
I haven't played 13, so it's like
Okay.
one of the only ones I haven't played.
Oh boy, my opinion on 13 is like this game isn't bad, but you can throw everyone directly in the trash except for Lightning and Fang. But anyways, Zach, who's going to be your pick for round 1? We've both gone for main characters, Lucas and I, but you do not necessarily have to pick your main character.
I'm not going to. Like there were those 2 were like the clear top 2 for me. Like I was like, those are the 2 I really want. There's some others that I like, but I think I have a good shot at them. Actually, I'm gonna pick a character that the only other person on this podcast who could take them would be Alana. And we were talking beforehand, and I didn't tell her this is my first pick because I wanted to mess with her.
Oh no, I'm already so excited because I love it.
Oh no!
I love it when people get mad on these podcasts.
I'm gonna take Vana from Final Fantasy 14
Ah.
Endwalker.
Okay,
Damn.
I know a little bit about Vana, but
I won't say too much
but
because I don't want to spoil
but
you.
I do have to ask, what category is Vana being drafted on?
Side character,
Got
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
100% correct.
So Vana, I don't want to give away too much about who Vana is, because I know, Sollosi, that you haven't played Endwalker yet. And
I
Aleks,
know a little bit about it.
I'm
but
not sure if you have, and I know, Lucas, I know you haven't, but
I haven't
um,
either. Yeah.
okay. But Vana is a character who you meet in Endwalker, sort of. You sort of met her in every other expansion as well. She's sort of this critical, overwhelming sort of presence in Final Fantasy 14. And I think that when you meet her and you realize who she is, and like sort of like her do it herself attitude, but also like her incredible kindness and the choices she has to make, the intensity of the choices she has to make, and also like the incredible kindness with which she makes those choices, um, and the ways in which she represents the philosophy of Endwalker, which, as much as I like Final Fantasy 16, I don't think it hits the highs of the story of Endwalker, which is not a fair comparison. But and I think that she is the sort of the fulcrum of why it works. There is one particular sequence, and Alana knows what I'm talking about, where there's music playing and you're seeing all the suffering that she has to endure and she also has to watch, and she is just such a presence in the game, as like this almost godlike figure, but also as this incredibly human, and beautifully drawn character in a very short period of time. Vana, is someone I was afraid Alana would take from me, and that's why I didn't even tell her I was going to take her. Vana's a great character.
Okay, now Alana, I have to ask. I'm gonna assume that Vana was on your draft board somewhere.
She
but,
was.
But was there a danger of you taking her in the first or second round?
There was, yes.
Ah.
I pulled the same tactic with Zach, so I feel like the exact same things just happened. If I'd gone before Zach, I probably would have nabbed her. But yeah, I can't really embellish anything else on top of what Zach says. But I think one of the things I love about Vanilla is like you realize so much about her and so much about the way she acts through, like, contextually through everything that you've done as well as the Warrior of Light throughout 14. Like, you have to make a lot of like really difficult decisions and go through a lot of things as well, and you sort of like, and in the same way that that scene that Zach was talking about completely changes the meaning of one of the most famous pieces of music from Final Fantasy 14. Like, it completely changes your perception of like everything that you've done in or like whatever your Warrior of Light's name is, like what you've done through the course of the game. And then there are moments after that that like a direct mirrors and comparisons to what Vanilla had to do. There are like basic like mirror shots and cut shots of you and Vanilla doing similar things, and you're just like, my god, I was a balling wreck throughout the entire sequence that happens partway through Endwalker and through most of the like second half of Endwalker.
I'm gonna say, like, the
Basically,
last 10 hours, I just like like reading the
So-
text through tears.
yeah, Vanilla is amazing. Like, and I think a lot of people expected her to be something completely different, and she was completely the opposite and also brilliant. So
Now, as Zach correctly guessed, I have not played Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. I stopped playing Final Fantasy XIV in the Shadowbringers post game, so I'm close to meeting Vana, but I just haven't set aside the time to restart my subscription and play that game more. But Aleks and Lucas, neither of you are 14 players?
Yeah, I play. I'm
Oh.
personally just about to start Shadowbringers.
Ooh.
I've been on hiatus for over a year now, and I'm sad about that because I recognize that I'm just about to get to like the best parts of the game.
Yeah.
pretty
Oh
much.
yeah,
You are.
but well, we should be trying to move on. I mean, we're in danger of this podcast going 3 hours. Aleks, you have the next pick in round 1. What is it?
Okay, Snow Celeste. Okay, I think I'm just gonna have to follow my heart for this one. Not sure if this is gonna be a contested pick at all. Also, not sure what category this one would apply to, but I'm gonna draft. As a villain is my intention. Delta Hyrule from Final Fantasy Tactics.
All right,
You're the worst.
Excellent.
The worst.
I
So
love
happy.
I love Delita. He is
Yeah.
one of my favorite villains. He I'll say it. He was on my board, but not at the top of my board. But again, you could probably write a PhD thesis on his relationship with Ramza in Final Fantasy
Mhm.
Tactics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Final Fantasy Tactics, it's so clearly like drawing on like inspiration from like theater in its storytelling. I think it's like Mitsuda makes it pretty clear how inspired by just like drama and theater he is in general. I mean, like you don't have to look any further than the whole framing of that kind of the Evilise raid in Stormblood to know that.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, Delta is just one of the most nuanced depictions of a villain in any video game I've ever played. If you even want to call him a villain, he could arguably be characterized as like an anti-hero as well. He's been like truly wronged by like the system. He's also been like taken up by a family of nobles where he both experiences like privilege and a lot of discrimination as a commoner. And yeah, this whole idea that like history has brought him up as a commoner who becomes king and brings peace, like it's such a perfect story, it's such a perfect legend. But then as you progress through the game, you realize how much more complex it is than that, and that he's actually kind of like, although he's like a really pure-hearted idealist in a lot of ways, he's also totally like a Machiavellian narcissist,
hmm
and that just makes him such an interesting character. It's really cool how you have him in that first act of the game as a party member, and then the distance just keeps building between him and Ramza throughout the game. Like he's really like a Shakespearean level villain,
And,
and like
but
both in
also
terms of like his tragic flaw and his whole character arc. I just he's just a badass character.
but also one thing I think is interesting about Delita is that he's never really Ramza's enemy.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the last act of the game, Ramza has a few meetings with Delita that aren't really clashes or anything, more just conversations. But Delita's like, I know that Ramza is pursuing justice in his own way, but I need him to win to fill my own ambitions as well. So like it's we know from the beginning that Delita is scheming and eventually becomes king. But his friendship with Ramza never really disappears. So there's in a way that even though they're on opposite sides of the conflict, they're still brothers in a way
Mhm.
that I thought was super fascinating. Zach, when is the feature coming where we compare Delita from FF Tactics to Joey from Suikoden 2?
I mean, I literally have it on the board right now.
Awesome,
So
excellent,
whenever I read it, when the Tactics remaster comes out and the
perfect.
Suikoden 2 one, I would love to read it.
Looking forward to that. And me drafting him as a villain, that's cool with everybody. Everybody can get
Oh
behind
yeah,
that
Oh,
category.
100%.
yeah.
That's where he was
Yeah.
on my board. Also, number one on my villains board. Thank you very much.
it wouldn't be a retro encounter draft if Zach's picks didn't get stolen. But Alana, you have the last pick of the first round and the first pick of the second round back to back. So one at a time. Let's go with you giving us 2 picks in a row.
Oh, I do, don't I? I think given that we're talking about a lot of new games, I'm going to try and get a new character out of the way. So I'm going to draft my first side character as a Final Fantasy 16 character, and I'm going to draft, maybe, I don't know if someone's not expecting this or not, but I'm going to draft Gav. Good old Gav from the
Oh,
Hideout from
love Gav.
16.
Gav is excellent.
He's amazing. Like, I was so happy when there was a Geordie, which is like someone from Newcastle from in England in Final Fantasy 16. I was like, hey up. I was like, come on, come down. And then just like I was like, this guy's gonna die. His name's Gav. And he's just like, something's gonna happen to him. And no, he just kept coming back and coming back. And not only that, he basically is like Clive's right hand man, and they have such a good bond throughout the entire game. And it just builds and builds and builds. And he has some really incredible moments towards the end. He kind of fits in the like rogue thiefy archetype, which I really like. He's a bit cheeky, he's fun, but he's also like very ready to get his hands dirty, and he's like pretty proficient as well. So yeah, Gav is a delight and a highlight of 16 among many highlights, I think, from the people
Yeah.
who are at the hideaway in 16. But Gavin really stands out to me just because I don't know, he just feels like he's just like someone you'd meet down the pub. You'd go and have a drink
Yeah.
with him, and he's like, he's great. Like, I love him, just his interactions with everyone, with Jill, with Torgal, with Sid, with so many other people. And yeah, I love him to bits. Yeah,
I feel like Gav has just great chemistry with everybody.
he does.
Whether he's interacting with someone that's making fun of him, or or they're talking about their professional relationship in the hideout, or Tarya is telling him to stop getting so injured all the time. He just has he just gets along with everyone uniquely, but in a good way. He is just a ray of sunshine. Gav's awesome.
Uncle Gav, as he calls
Yeah.
himself towards the end.
I mean, like the final side quest with Gav,
Oh,
Yeah,
like
that's
everything
really
about
sweet.
it is phenomenal.
I cried.
And then like the post credits, the post like sort of the credits scene with him where he's running towards the door. If you've played, if you know, you know. Yeah, Gav's a phenomenal character. I mean, like it's funny because like Final Fantasy 16, and I hate to oversell this game. I feel like I constantly am, but like
Well, you did give it a 97.
yeah, I stand by it. I don't even think he would be like a top 5 character for me. And in almost any other Final Fantasy game, he would be my favorite character. Like that's how strong I think the cast of that game is.
I actually did write a top 10
I
Final
know, I
Fantasy
saw.
16 characters. I think Gav was right around like 6th or 7th, which
Yeah.
and I love him too. So that just goes to show how strong this cast is.
Yeah. Oh no, he's definitely like top 5, maybe top 3. I haven't really thought about it that hard. But yeah, I wanted to poach him because 16's hot on a few people's brains. Now, my second pick is a hard one because there are some that might get nicked. Like Villain is one I'm toying with, but I might leave it. I don't think anyone's going to take it because I know only one other person has done this section of that game, so I'm going to leave it for now.
Okay, that also is speaking possibly Endwalker to me.
Yeah, I'm hearing FF14 all over that sentence.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go for something a bit different. I'm gonna go for Summon as my next pick, and I'm gonna go for Alexander.
Interesting.
Oh no, that's my name. What? That is my name.
Alexander has been my favorite summon forever, and it might be biased because Final Fantasy IX was my first Final Fantasy game, and whenever I think of Alexander, it is always the city of Alexandria becoming the summon Alexander in the fight against Bahamut. But genuinely, I really like the idea of like the holy summon not being like a powerhouse, but being like a mechanized steampunk castle, which is a defender. I've always found that such a really interesting interpretation of like, and it's like a really great like depiction of like the paladin job, which is like a holy job anyway, in like summon or Esper form, right? Like it's like designed to protect and attack people, and it does it so well. And I've like it's probably been one of the most consistent summon designs I think for the entire series, apart from I guess 9. And in 14, it's absolutely gigantic, and you run through it, and then you get to fight it right at the end of the raid, and it's very cool. But yeah, I've always loved Alexander. It's like it's just a really cool interpretation of like the light element. I don't think like everything else usually goes for like angels and cute things, and then this is just like big castle made out of metal. So
Speaking of metal, I mean, Alexander in Final Fantasy 14
uh-huh.
is so cool.
Uh-huh.
Making him the goblin god of technology.
So
and
good.
then they like a Super Sentai transforming mecha for one raid. I mean, I worry already that this podcast is turning into an advertisement for FF14 and 16, but it's super dope in 14.
Oh yeah, I love it. The raids they take a while to get good, but the last 2 in particular I really love.
And you know, I know I wasn't super enthusiastic about Final Fantasy 13 in this episode and in those
Yeah.
episodes, but Alexander
Mhm.
being a transforming mecha ride for Hope in 13,
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. Like I wish they had done more with the summons in 13 because that was honestly a stronger part of the game.
Yeah, the Eidolons were really good. But yeah, I think Alexander has been a really consistent summon throughout, and I love it. It's one of those ones I can't really describe other than just like, oh, it's big robot castle thing. It's cool. But
Just
then
such a
in
unique
9.
design.
Right, exactly. Like nothing else. There's very few robotic designs for the summons in the series, so Alexander has always stood out to me. So there you go.
Definitely my favorite when I was a kid.
But I think we're ready to move on. Alex, you have your villain chosen and nothing else, so the board is your oyster.
Okay, I got main character, side character. What am I gonna do here? Let's go side character. I am going to draft. Let's go Barrett. Barrett Wallace from
Oh,
Final
Alright.
Fantasy
that's a
VII.
great one.
Barrett
Nice.
from Final Fantasy VII,
Yes.
the Mega Man of the Final Fantasy universe.
Yeah, I mean, like I could just say guy's got a gun on his arm, gun for an arm, and leave it at that. But Barrett's actually a lot more than that, which is really great. I mean, he's a passionate activist and an eco terrorist slash activist who cares a lot for his planet. He's a caring adopted father. He's a good friend to Dine before they end up having their falling out, and he's just a great leader who's able to stick up to Cloud's edgy BS when we all need it. So I just really like Barrett as a character, really deep character. Obviously there's some problematic aspects to his depiction. Just specifically, even in the English translation, how they kind of make him kind of even more aggressive in kind of the way he's presented, which draws on like a lot of stereotypes. He's got that Mr. T kind of vibe going on, but ultimately, like as a strong character, he pushes through a lot of that, and I really like the idea of him being like this long range tank character too. That's like a really unique kind of kit that we especially see. Um, Kind of reach its fruition in FF7 remake, especially.
Yeah,
Um,
I love how there's only really 4 playable characters in FF7 Remake, but I love how differently each of them feel.
Mm.
yeah, and yeah, the fact that you can also get the close range weapon for him, like the wrecking ball, just that completely changes the way he's
So
played.
fun,
Is
too.
so
Great.
fun. But yeah, the fact that he's a tank that can like give you good survivability, so makes him really good to put raise on him, and kind of good for support magic. But also like he can tank a lot of hits, and he can hit flying enemies. Like just such a versatile character, both in terms of mechanics and the story. So really love Barrett, and I welcome him to my team.
He has good limit
Nice.
breaks in FF7, and I always appreciate that, because by the end of the game, it's like, well, everyone can kind of do everything, so I'll just pick the characters with my favorite limit breaks. And yeah, so on that note, I used him a lot.
He's great in the remake as well, I think.
Oh,
Like,
I can't wait to see the scenes with him and Dine
Oh my god,
oh,
I
in
know.
Rebirth. If we're getting, I think we might get there in Rebirth.
I mean, they're at Cosmo Canyon in that trailer, so I'd imagine we will get the stuff at Gold Saucer.
Oh, I
If
hope
they cut,
so. That
I
that'll be
can't
so
imagine
exciting.
they would cut Gold Saucer. That's such an iconic part of that game. That would be
Yeah.
so fun to experience in like kind of this beautiful, like graphically realized way. And the whole dating scene as well. So
Ha! That's
Oh,
right.
you can
God.
potentially date Barrett
Oh, God,
if you mess
yes.
up enough with the ladies.
Yeah, I think the stuff with Dying in 7 is one of my favorite parts of the game, just because. And there's like a chance in Remake as well to like really flesh out his relationship with Marlene even more. Because like, I remember the first time that like Barrett takes off his glasses in Remake, and everyone was like, "Oh, look, he's got soft dad eyes," and I was like, "No, can we like?" It's true because I do love his relationship with Marlene. Like, he really cares. Like, he's so passionate about like his activism, but like his daughter is first and foremost before anything else, and I think that's a really good like key hallmark of his character.
I haven't actually played the remake yet, so don't have any strong opinions there. But I mean, he's an awesome character in the original, and some, like you said, awesome limit breaks, which is definitely one of the most important things in the game.
Well, when you do eventually get around to Final Fantasy VII Remake, might I suggest an episode of Retro Encounter that we did on that subject back in 2020 to accompany Alana's review of the game?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you had to beat that thing in like 8 days or something crazy.
it's like 6, yeah.
Oh, yikes. Oh, I don't envy you at all. But I also don't envy Zach, who has the third pick of round 2. You have one side character down and the rest of your team open. So who's it going to be?
So, I'm a little worried about my main character, but I know the next two people already have theirs. So I'm going to take one of my favorite Final Fantasy side characters, and the one that inspired my main in 14 originally. I play Reaper mostly now, but I got to take Kane Highwind from Final Fantasy IV. He's such a good character. I mean, I feel like you think about like the number of anime betrayals that he does to you over the course of the game, and the ways in which like he is drawn in like these like SNES ways, right? Like he's very simple. Like like the thing with Rosa is so like lightly sprinkled on in the original game, but the ways in which he struggles to be the kind of man that he wants to be, which Cecil does as well, or Cecil, or however you want to pronounce it. I think makes him like sort of one of like the prototypical. In so many ways, Final Fantasy IV is the prototype for what Final Fantasy becomes to some degree, right? But he's the prototypical, like sort of like frenemy character, and I think that he is just so edgy, and I love him.
He is the most edgy.
Yeah.
When I saw that he was being added to the cast in Dissidia Duodecim, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, he's gonna betray both sides. At least like the over unders is 2.5, and I bet the over, and that's exactly what happened. He like
Yeah.
it's almost cartoonish how many times he betrays different groups, but I think it also is communicated that he really is feeling inner turmoil,
Mhm.
and it is also just effortlessly cool for being like mostly stoic and serious with an edge to him and having just a cool look and cool abilities. I love Kane.
It's one of those things where I feel like if we got a newer version, like a remake version of Final Fantasy IV, there would be a lot more subtle depth that we would see
Oh
that
yeah.
you couldn't put into,
I've never thought about that before, but he would be a phenomenal character in a remake. Yeah.
Yeah.
like there's already a lot of good depth in just the pixel version, but like just being able to see the nuance a little bit more with animation and voice or something.
I don't care for Final Fantasy IV: The After Years,
Uh-huh.
the sort of multi-part sequel to Final Fantasy IV. But what happens to Kane in the events of that game are I feel the most interesting part
It's
of it.
the only good part of that.
Yeah.
It is the only good part of that game. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, like a lot of Kane is like I love Kane. Kane is my favorite Final Fantasy IV character, along with Rydia, I think. But yeah, everything everyone said is pretty much nailed it on the head. Why? Whenever anyone thinks of a dragoon, it's always Kane, right? Like it's never, I don't know, like it's never Freya or it's never another dragoon lancer user. Basically, like he
Or
is the archetype.
the hot dragoon from Final Fantasy 15.
I love Aranea,
Yeah.
but she is not a great character. That game doesn't write any women very good, so it's like
There's also a very hot dragoon in 14, I'll have you know.
there is a very hot dragoon in 14, and in fact, we were saying like depth to Kane. I feel like Kane and Estinian are two sides of a similar coin, right?
I think Estinian is a 2010s interpretation of Kane.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
There is in a dungeon in the Endwalker patches, Estinian. If you take Estinian with you, he like says the same lines as Kane does throughout 4. So I'm like, oh, okay. You don't need to tell me this, Yoshi P, but I understand what you're doing.
Yeah, most betrayals per minute of any character, probably. But yeah, I mean, I'll just share this as a fun fact. When it came down to my last pick, I was about to pick Kane, and then I'm like, oh, I bet Zach will want to pick him, so I relented, and that's exactly
No,
what
no,
happened.
you're doing it wrong.
You actually gave him to me?
You should have taken it. You should have taken it. Oh man.
I mean, I appreciate that.
Unless you really felt that Barrett
I-
was threatened by Lucas, myself, or Zach, you should have gone for it.
I just liked I liked Barrett better. Like he was higher on my side character list, so I just went with Barrett instead. But yeah, I was about to be really vicious there.
Oh, I do slightly wish you had, mostly because I just love chaos. Now let's see. My villain slot is still open, so I technically could draft chaos, but or do I want to draft someone that wants to kill chaos? I don't know. It is my pick. It's the 4th pick of the second round. I only have my main selected, and really my only competition this moment is Lucas, because Lucas has 2 picks right after me. So if I'm worried about being sniped by Lucas, I should go with something that I don't know a lot about Lucas's tastes. Lucas is you and I have spoken before on like RPG fan channels, but this is our first podcast we've done together.
It's true.
I know you like FF6 a lot, and
You do.
I can't let you have the double act of Final Fantasy VI characters. So I'm gonna draft Terra as a side character.
Okay.
Because
Terra was not on my board.
Okay, well, it's too late now because
is.
she's off everyone's board besides mine. She is a great magic user. She's a great sword user. I love her arc where it starts out as total uncertainty and eventually self discovery and found family. She is one of the characters that is the heart and soul of Final Fantasy VI. Um, I I don't want to like rank every character in Final Fantasy VI right now, but I think she's one of the really crucial characters of that game, and I always like having her around. And even just her look with the red and pink outfit and green hair, and transforming into the pinkish purple Esper form. And if everyone knows that I love it when people transform. Um, it's Terra's just awesome, and I even like her in Dissidia, where she can chain magic better than just about everyone, unless you have a truly insane Kefka build. So yeah, I've always liked Terra. I wanted to draft someone from FF6, so Terra it is.
Terra has one of my favorite moments, other than Celeste's. Like the stuff at the orphanage in the world of Ruin is genuinely incredible. Like where she's trying to find a purpose in the world after she's, freaks out as an Esper and everything that happens in the world of balance. Like she's a phenomenally written character, and like particularly now that you think about it, how like sometimes 15, for example, like doesn't do a great job with its female characters, and you look at Final Fantasy 6 and you're like, well, Celeste and Terra are both great, so it's like, how can you screw it up? But there's like they've set this like template that's so like, they're all both balances of like kindness and strength and weakness and power and everything all in one go. And I think both Terra and Celeste are the heart of Final Fantasy 6, but Terra even more so perhaps because of her ties to the like theme of Espers and everything that happens to her in the beginning of the game. She's also just super good at everything in battle. Like she's more of a magic user, but she's definitely extremely helpful to have. And I love her personality. I love that she's like reserved, but also very excitable in some ways, and fun. But also just trying to figure out who she is because she's like 16, 17 maybe. So she's a really
and
great.
doesn't remember most of that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but the moment after she transforms in Mobliz, and she defeats Funbaba with the party, but then she like descends from her form, and all the children are afraid of her, but they slowly one by one recognize her and start rushing to her side again. It's such a beautiful moment. I love Terra. I had to draft someone from FF6.
Just gonna say that specific moment where the kids like shy away, and there's like the change where she just looks heartbroken for that brief moment before one of them comes forward. It's just tugs on the heartstrings.
Yeah, she's just like an amazingly depicted character, and yeah, I mean, like we already talked about her a whole bunch in the FF6 podcast. So,
But okay, so Lucas, Terra and Clive are not available to you. Neither is Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones / Song of Ice and Fire property. But you have every slot remaining other than main character, and 2 picks in a row at the end of the second round,
Okay.
beginning of the third. So one at a time. Who is your pick for round 2?
So, just because I want to be contrary, I'm gonna start off with a pick that I'm not as worried about. Specifically because it's been joked about several times while we've been talking about prepping the episode. And I'm going to take Edward from...
Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Specifically from the PSP version of Final Fantasy IV.
Okay. So you want the Apollo harp and the endgame equipment.
I want the endgame equipment. I want the bard song that gives Mighty Guard. I want the salve ability where it actually lets you use Phoenix Downs to bring the whole party back up at once. I just finished playing through a Final Fantasy IV ROM hack where Edward was my MVP because of those abilities, and I am here for it. I want to champion Edward.
He also has very high speed, and in the advanced PSP version of that game, speed and ATB count really, really matter. It's almost game breaking to have a party full of speedsters instead of like a bunch of a bunch of Sids and Cecils in it. But yeah, no, Edward's gameplay is redeemed somewhat in the PSP version, but even though he is sort of famously a slightly ineffective character in original Final Fantasy IV, his arc really is beautiful. Because he was a somewhat cowardly bard who was completely dejected after his girlfriend or fiance Anna passed away. He has this adversarial relationship with Tella, but he really does have a good heart and is trying his best and saves the group a couple times. So yeah, you know what, we were joking about how Edward was going to be the number 1 overall pick before we recorded, but you know what, I'm at the very least I'm amused. So thank you, Lucas.
And aside from high speed, I understand that he's also got the highest spooniness stat in the game.
Correct.
He does, yeah.
Well, okay, in the PSP version, yes, but in the original Final Fantasy IV English translation, Yang has the best spoon stat because he can throw a spoon for 9,999 damage.
Oh, yeah.
Touche.
But I think the spoon was renamed Kitchen Knife, or it was originally Kitchen Knife.
And
Maybe, I think maybe just Ted Woolsey maybe just loved spoons in 1991.
hey,
Good for
there's some
him.
versions of the game where they let Edward equip the spoon as a weapon, so I'm just saying.
Wow. Okay. You know, Final Fantasy IV ROM hackers are into early 90s memes. Sure, I get it.
I
Edward
play a
and
lot of randomizer.
Edward and Lilith from Tales of Destiny would get on really well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you know what? I speak the other FF4 Tales of Destiny connection. I bet Kane and Leon would get along really well as well.
Yes.
That was a joke for you and me alone, Alana, on this podcast.
I appreciate it.
But okay, look, I think most of the cast of Tales of Destiny is unavailable to you, Lucas, but you do have another pick to follow right after Edward.
I think I'm gonna go with my villain next. I am gonna go with another FF6 pick. I don't want to do too much, too many repeats here. I'm actually going to go with Ultros.
Wow.
I was thinking about Ultros. It's a great choice.
Really? Multiple people had Ultros on their
Yeah.
board. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Everybody loves
Hey,
seafood soup.
Ultros is so fun.
Right.
He is super fun. I just wasn't expecting him.
He is a fun character. He's a recurring, like, almost like meme character by the end of the game and he showed up in other games. I mean, he is funny. He is he's passionate. You can at least say that with his tenacity coming after you for no real reason that you can tell. I don't even know why he's doing it. And I mean, he's a patron of the arts. You can't go wrong, right?
Yeah, he's working at opera houses and auction houses. I'm still not sure how he gets up to your airship at the end of World of Balance.
He stops to
I'm
pose
guessing
for
Typhon
up and
just sort
coming
of
artist.
flew up there.
You never seen flying octopuses before?
Right.
I'm sure Chupon gave him a ride, but still, he also has a pretty memorable turn in Final Fantasy XIV when Godbert does that big smile when he
Oh
meets
my God.
Ultros. Oh man, yeah. Sorry, Lucas. We turned it into an FF14 discussion again.
Are we allowed to draft Godbert?
Spoiler alert. If he's a character, then he's draftable. I never said they had to be a playable side character.
Okay.
Adding to my board, Godbert.
Right.
I'm slightly worried that one of my picks from 2019 might be gone now. So I am just going to go with my heart and get my favorite Final Fantasy villain. Also a recurring character who you fight 4 times. Beatrix from Final Fantasy 9.
Mm.
I
Ugh.
love Beatrix. She is so
Yep.
cool. She is her boss fight is unusually challenging. At least the first one or two of them are. So like when she's chasing you down uh in the first disc of Final Fantasy 9, you're like genuinely a little afraid of her. It's like, "Oh no, not her again." And so she's this like scary, incredibly cool character. But then she has this romance later on with Steiner that is just completely adorable. So I feel like she is super tough and strong, but a softy deep down, which is one of my favorite character types. And look, I mean, look, she's also on a team with Clive, so they have that in common at least. And for the brief time you get to control her, for like one sequence around the middle of the game, or maybe the 2/3 mark of the game, she's super fun to use. So and I drafted her as my villain character in the 1.0 Final Fantasy draft, or sorry, Final Fantasy draft. I picked the wrong double word there for a second. And I decided I wanted her back, and I know that Alana loves FF9, and there was a danger of Alana taking Beatrix from me, so
Yeah.
I couldn't allow that to happen. Whether she was on your board or not, Alana, I feared there was a chance. So on my team she went.
She was on my board, but not as a villain initially because of the heel turn she does around the 2/3 mark, like you say. But
Face turn, heel turn, heel turn
face
means,
turn,
yeah,
thank you,
heel turn means they go bad. Face turn means they go good.
thank you.
Sorry. I wow. We have Final Fantasy 14 and professional wrestling in the podcast.
I know.
I really am back.
Yeah, no, I had
Welcome
her.
back.
Welcome back indeed. But yeah, I had her down. Again, she's really cool. I wish she was a party member over Amaranth, but she's like this cool blend of like Steiner plus Paladin plus a bit of Cloud, because one of her, like, I think her best attack's Clemacid, isn't it? Which is one of Cloud's limits breaks. But or stop breaks she has as well. She has like a number of different like references to previous Final Fantasy swordsmen. But yeah,
Doesn't
she's
she have
just
Shock from General Leo also?
she does have
Yeah.
shock, yeah.
Yeah, shock is also Steiner's ultimate move, but you need
Yes.
you need his the Ragnarok sword to get it.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, she is superb for as she's not like a main character, but she gets like a lot of screen time in the first 2.5 discs. And she's this imposing force, and as you say, she becomes like this really sympathetic, lovely, lost character, because you see in a similar way to Kane, she like has this kind of like turmoil of she knows the queen has changed, but her loyalty to the queen is like what's holding her back from leaving. And but then the moment she sees Garnet in pain, kind of like what Steiner sees as well, like that's the thing. Like she serves the queen, but the princess is like top priority for her. But yeah, Garnet, Beatrix is amazing. She's been one of my favorite characters from 9 for a long time, and I'm a little jealous you got her, but I'm not killing myself over it. She was on my board, but not super high.
I you know what? I really like Final Fantasy 9. It might be the Final Fantasy game I'm closest to replaying because it has been well over a decade since I've played it. And but if she's not my favorite character, she's one of my favorite characters. I like she's one I was always either happy or scared to encounter
Mm-hmm.
when I played that game. And yeah, I wish she was on your team more, but I think she would fairly count as a side character or as a villain for the purpose of this podcast episode.
Oh, but you got her, so that's okay.
Her theme is also just so good.
Oh, Rose of May. Oh, is my favorite song from 9. Yeah.
Oh, it's really good. I was sad that you can forge her sword at the end of the game, but no one can equip it. It just sits in your
I
inventory.
know.
It's like I wanted a cool end game sword for Steiner or Zidane, but didn't get it. But anyway, Zach, 3 villains are off the board, but your villain slot is still open.
That's true.
So are your main character slot. No one's drafted a job class yet. You have 6 slots still available, and it's your pick in the 3rd round. Who's it going to be?
So I kind of got to go with the same route that I went with Kane, and I hate to go with two characters from the same game, but I feel like Cecil is the fundamental Final Fantasy protagonist.
Now I really regret not taking Kane from you.
You were
Yeah,
too
I
nice.
thought you might have an eye on Cecil. So that is my choice. But it's interesting because like while I do think that I hate to talk about Clive here, but I'm going to. Well, I do think that Clive is the best Final Fantasy protagonist. So much of Clive is pulled from Final Fantasy IV and what Cecil is, in terms of like facing his darkness and sort of that accept the truth moment, which is very cool. It reminded me so much of like the moment where Cecil is fighting himself in the mirror, and his arc is sort of over once he becomes a paladin to some degree, but I still feel like that ability in a 1991, I think, RPG to really have a character who is facing who he is and accepting who he is and accepting his sins, like that is something that uh, has become such a staple of the genre, but I think that is still impactful when I play it now. And I've played Final Fantasy IV probably definitely more than any Final Fantasy. Just because every time there's a new version of it, I'm gonna go play it.
That's exactly true of me.
Yeah,
It's not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but it's the one
right.
I've played through the most times because it just keeps getting remade and I keep playing it again.
Yeah, and it's just like it is like maybe my ultimate comfort RPG. Like I Final Fantasy IV, like it just feels like a warm blanket to me because I know that game so well. And yeah, I just think that he's such a prototype and useful in battle, of course, but I just think he's a great character.
Yeah, I think this is amusing. The top 3 main characters on my board were Clive, Cecil, Celes in that order. So, yeah, the C team's doing pretty well for the main
That was
character spot in this
exactly my
drive.
order.
Yeah. Oh, wow, okay, I guess I was, able to predict your tastes and preferences a little bit, but, yeah, again, there was no danger of me picking Cecil because I already had Clive on my team. But I totally agree. Cecil is a prototype main character for Final Fantasy. He literally has a transforms during his own transformative moment in the game, and they even signify his new beginning by having him go all the way back down to level 1, but him becoming a
Mhm.
powerhouse
I
again
love
very
that.
quickly. It's annoying when you experience it for the first time. You're like, oh no, why is he so weak? But then but he gets back up to speed and is so strong and fun in his way that
But he
you,
isn't weak.
yeah, well, he's weak
That's the best part.
like one fight, and then he's level 7 or something, and it gets much better.
He,
But
he still has more hit points than the twins.
I think that is true. Probably Tella as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, Cecil's an awesome main character, and I really enjoy him. If I hadn't gone for Clive and Zach took him in one of the first 2 rounds, I probably would have gotten Cecil quickly after.
Best Final Fantasy hair as well, like for a protagonist.
Yo, have you
After
seen
he
Ooh.
Clive's
takes that
hair?
helmet off, it full flow.
I know,
Just
right?
lets it all hang.
Golden,
I'm
white, silver. Yeah.
I'm thinking right now, and I don't know. Have you seen Clive's hair? To
Yeah.
repeat what Zach
I
said.
I have seen Clive's hair for like 80 hours. It's still Cecil.
Hmm. I don't know. Like
Hey.
Cecil let himself go a little bit in Secret of Evermore for the Super Nintendo.
Beautiful. Hey, Kit Harington's an attractive person, to be fair.
But yeah, the whole like turning from Dark Knight to Paladin is just exactly how you described it, Sollosi. It's just one of the most beautiful like narrative design moments like depicted in a game. Like to this day, I think like it's so impactful. It's so well tuned with
Yeah.
like kind of the mechanics of the game. It's just the whole like fighting yourself in the mirror, but you're actually just supposed to defend and survive. Just like a really beautiful way to
Mhm.
depict a character transformation. And yeah, I'm not sure that he's the first like true like anti-hero in uh like RPG history. I mean like the fact that like you start the game seeing him like commit war crimes and then he goes on this whole character arc. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's like the first one, but the fact that we're in age of the video game anti-hero right now. Just very, very big ahead of his time, I think.
Yeah. The fact that we're still talking about it 32 years later, I mean, it had the biggest impact, at least, in terms of that anti-hero thing. And I love that it takes, like, because I love the moment in Final Fantasy 1 where, like, you change classes and, like, you grow up. Like, I don't know what it is about that moment that gives me such a dopamine hit, but it's the same idea here.
Right. Well, Zach got his main character squared away. Alex, you have 6 slots to go, including your main character. But it's your pick. Number 4 in round 3. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, I unfortunately paid for my altruism here, but let's see here.
We love each other here at Retro Encounter, but drafts are not the time for altruism.
This point. Okay, so I think I'll draft my main character. And that will be Noctis. Little bratty Noctis. So I personally felt that Noctis's character arc and development throughout FF15 was just some of the most like human character development I've ever seen depicted in a game, just because of the leisurely times just exploring the open world with your boys, learning from them, actually kind of becoming a more just a better person and learning how to like become a leader. I thought that was incredibly done, and by the end of that game, when you have to like choose your picture to maybe I shouldn't go into spoilers, but yeah, you got to choose a picture that like Prompto has like taken throughout the entire game. So you have to like go through all the pictures, and you get to see all the special moments you had personally as the player with your lads, and I thought that was pretty incredible. And just he's just like a cool character. That the fact that he does evolve so convincingly, I think is a really strong point for him. I love how they have those little like almost like BioWare like dialogue options for him, but they're almost like trivially stupid in how they're framed, where it's just like, oh, you can either choose the completely socially inept or rude or arrogant option, or you can defer to your friends because Noctis has no emotional maturity at that point in the story, or you can actually choose the good supportive or diplomatic decisions. So even though that was pretty basic, I thought it did a great job capturing the range of this character and what encompasses him. And then you have that whole like political negotiation scene in Altissia, where that's kind of like a big turning point for him, where he's actually able to, with you as the player making the choices, start making some bigger decisions. And then he just gets insanely powerful. He gets all the king's weapons. He can start like flying around and using all these different royal arms. Just really cool character. Lots of flawed aspects to him, but I think that's part of what makes him so interesting. And just seeing him grow thanks to the support he has from his friends is what makes that game so special to me. So yeah, Noctis, lock him in.
I haven't played Final Fantasy 15, but I have played a lot of Tekken 7.
Oh
So
yeah, I played him in
so
Tekken as well.
so maybe maybe I have played Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, maybe Tekken 7 is a good enough replacement.
Yeah, I mean he you can fly around and use a whole bunch of weapons with him in that, so you got the gist of it.
Only one of those games was ever played at Evo. So yeah, I think I chose well.
Oh my god. Yeah, Noctis is a really fantastic main character. Like, I think regardless of what you actually think of 15, I think Noctis has. It's funny actually that like two of the more modern Final Fantasy games actually have such fantastic character arcs for their lead character. Like, Noctis is like the royal prince who is like a little bit spoiled and he's off to get married, but like you really see him grow and develop with his friends who are basically his family by the end of the game. Like, the scene at the campfire is still one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. And Noctis is like impeccably played as like this like slightly bratty spoiled child, sleepy, he just wants to sleep all the time, bless him. And then he just becomes this person who knows what he has to do, and he knows that he has to save the world, save Insomnia, and save his friends. And but he knows he can't do it on his own as well, which I think is one of the best things about him, is like he accepts that he needs the support of other people to help him. But he's super powerful as well. Say like all the king's weapons and all the summons that he can do as well by the end. Like, yeah, Noctis is great. Probably, well, yeah, one of the highlights of 15 for sure.
Yeah, agree 100%. Also, old Noctis, when he's got that grizzled look with the beard and everything. Yeah,
That's the best part of Final Fantasy
what a
15.
stud.
I know,
know,
right?
right?
Whew.
At least Square Enix is good at making their protagonists handsome once they've aged a little bit.
I definitely didn't just Google that, and wow, yeah, that looks way better than his original boyband look. Yeah.
Yeah, they're giving us two versions, kind of like original Nier back on the Xbox 360 days. But Alana, you have not picked your main character yet, so unless there's some cross-category shenanigans, you could probably save your main character selection to the very end if you're playing with strategy. But again, just go with whatever you want to. You have every slot remaining other than summon. So who's going to be your pick in round 3?
Yeah, I'm saving my main character at this point. I'm happy they're not gone, and I didn't think they would be gone, so that's good. So I am gonna pick another side character, and I am gonna nab Vivi from Final Fantasy IX straight off the bat right now.
Oh, Vivi is so heartbreaking.
Vivi has maybe my favorite character arc of any Final Fantasy character ever. Just beautifully written play on the Black Mage as a entire stand-in or a piece of Final Fantasy history, but also an incredible examination of like what it means to live and existentialism and what it means to be you. And Vivi is adorable, and he doesn't realize many things about himself, but again, through the power of friendship and through experience and through growing up, Vivi begins to understand what life is, but also that he's not defined by who he is. He's not like the most powerful Black Mage in the entire series. He does get some pretty powerful spells and really only reaches his full potential with Steiner, but like he's adorable, and I think I love it that his like trance limit break is he has like a floppy Black Mage hat, but when he goes into trance it goes pointy and upright, and I think that's really adorable. But I think he just has such a lovely character arc, and he's iconic. Like the Black Mage is an iconic figure in Final Fantasy history. Like it's on the box for the Pixel remaster if you have the physical. If you know, it's one of the first things people think about, I think. And Vivi takes that like imagery and transposes a lot of what Final Fantasy storytelling has been up to this point in such a fabulous way that I think Vivi is. I mean, Vivi's probably my favorite character in every Final Fantasy game, and I wasn't sure I was going to draft him today, but given that I don't really have many other picks from 9, and a couple like Beatrix is already gone, I'm like, no, I've got to have my magic boy. I've got to have my favorite boy, I think.
Everything you said about Vivi's story arc is absolutely correct. They take the iconic Final Fantasy imagery of the Black Mage and use it to create a character that went totally unexplored places by Final Fantasy games of the past in a way that is both sad and beautiful and but also kind of hilarious. Like Vivi is so cute and clumsy that he has a lot of comedy beats in the first 2 discs, but then by the 3rd disc, when you sort of have a better understanding of what Vivi and the other Black Mages are, it's completely tragic and beautiful. Like I love Vivi. Like I mentioned that I wasn't sure who my favorite Final Fantasy IX character is. Vivi and Beatrix are 2 of the contenders. Absolutely true.
100%, yeah. And it plays on the flip side as well, because once he's reached that point of growth, like he has to do the same thing back to Zidane, right? Like when Zidane has his own existential crisis towards the end of disc 3, that's like all of that experience he's grown up with everybody else, he has to use it to help his best friend. So it's a real moment of growth for him. Yeah, Vivi's amazing. Shall I go for my next one, I think?
Yeah. I mean, in
Yeah.
the snake draft format, you have the first pick of round 4. So who's it going to be?
Good grief. I feel like I'm pretty safe with most of my picks, which feels like weird. I don't know. Do
Or
you
is
know
it a
what?
trap?
I know. I think I might go for my flex just for a bit of fun. And I am gonna go for Cube from Live Alive, the little robot from
Oh.
the future.
Oh,
Nice. I was
nice.
thinking of that, but that's really good.
Yeah, I do have a Live Alive character in my board. I'm not sure if I'm drafting them or not. But not Cube. This is fascinating. I played Live Alive for the first time with the remaster last year, and we recorded 2 episodes of Retro Encounter about it. But it was so good. So let's talk about Cube a little bit.
Let's talk about Cube, who has the coolest chapter in Live Alive, in my opinion. Like, this blend of RPG and Alien and 2001 A Space Odyssey all wrapped up in this, like, murder mystery kind of thing. Or with this adorable little robot who brings you coffee and, like, has little wings on his back and is the best healer in the game, like, by no comparison. Like, even though like Akira has been improved for the remake from what I know, and has like his healing's like a little better than it was in the SNES original or the Famicom original, I should say. Cube has the best healing spells and has some of the best magic potential in the game too. But I mostly it's just like VV. He's there for cute factor, and I can't ignore his like the little bleeps he makes in the remake are just so fun, and they do such a good job of like giving him a personality through his animations.
Yeah, his little spinnies that he does when he's happy.
He's so cute. But yeah, like when Live Alive came to mind for like a flex character, I was like, look, my real favorite character is probably Akira, but I would say that Cube is the best character. Again, I've picked 2 best boys like back to back, like big eyes and cute and a little awkward. And he's got little rollerblade feet as well. You can't leave that part off. But yeah, Cube is the best, and it's like again super futuristic, and just a really interesting character in like a traditional turn-based RPG where I mean 5 out of the 8 storylines are all medieval fantasy, ancient China, typical RPG settings, and then out of all of them, like the space one is the most unique. This is before like Star Ocean existed, and Fantasy Star is really the only other major Japanese RPG that had any kind of space travel or imagery in it. But yeah, Cube is adorable, and Cube is definitely team mascot. Sorry to certain recent dogs in the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah, in preparation for this thing, I was thinking about what live character would I pick if any of them, and yeah, Cube definitely like emerged first. I think not because, like you said, he's necessarily my favorite character of the bunch, but because that whole story arc is just so cool, and all the range of influences you mentioned, the fact that they managed to make like a little 3-hour JRPG survival horror essentially
Yeah.
is just fascinating, and it's actually like really fun and to play, and also kind of terrifying to
Oh
try
my
to avoid
god.
that beast. So the fact that they pulled that off is just really amazing alone, and to have the little robot at the heart of it is just great.
I think one thing that's special about Live Alive is the huge variance of tones between the 7 main
Mhm.
scenarios, or I guess 8 main scenarios before the finale, which is kind of a just fun JRPG chaos. And I don't know, my favorite Live Alive character is well, I sort of have 2 favorite Live Alive characters, Lei Kugo from China, and one character that I might yet draft as a flex. We'll see. But Cube's scenario is so unique and interesting. The only other uh sci-fi RPG older than that I can think of is I mean maybe Fantasy Star, maybe Lagrange Point, and that's about it.
Oh yeah, Lagrange Point's a great pick. Yeah.
But the well, it's a great pick until you try to play
Yes.
it. but but yeah, Cube was one of the most unique parts of that game, and his gameplay in the final scenario, if you get him early and upgrade him with
Yeah.
robot parts, he's kind of awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing.
It's definitely one of the highlights of a really wild uh game with a lot of different ill-fitting parts that somehow fit together amazingly.
Yeah, play Live, everyone.
Yeah, it's good. Play it and then listen to the Retro Encounter episodes.
Mhm.
But Alex, I can tell you've played Live Alive. You can technically draft 88% of the rest of the Live Alive cast right now if you want. But you have 5 slots still remaining on your team. Who's it going to be in round 4?
Okay, yeah, thinking of a couple things here, but I think because I didn't end up with Cecil, I'm gonna try to do a makeup pick, and that's gonna be I'm gonna draft my job / class, and that's gonna be Dark Knight.
That was literally my
Ooh.
next
Oh,
pick.
Oh, it's on my
wow.
short
Got
list.
you back,
Excellent.
Zach.
Excellent.
Literally my next pick.
Oh, fantastic. I you know what? I think I am drafting my job class next, but it wasn't it wasn't going to be Dark Knight. But
But the Final Fantasy Tactics Dark Knight, I've
Mhm.
never had the patience for it, but it's so awesome.
and
Yeah.
well and it's an awesome stylish tank in 14 and
Oh.
and does crazy weird damage with katanas in Final Fantasy 3. Cecil's not the only interesting Final Fantasy Dark Knight. So
Yep.
so Alex, what's your vision of Dark Knight for the purpose of this draft?
So I'm again, it is partly inspired by Cecil, but also it is the tank I play in FF14,
Yep.
and I just think it's well, one, I mean, the thing to really call out here is that it's easily got the best job quest line in that game. The fact
beautiful.
that
So good.
it's basically Fight Club, but in Final Fantasy is awesome.
I have never thought of it that way before.
It
Thank you
is,
for
yeah.
saying it that way. Yeah.
When the gameplay trailer for Shadowbringers came out and they showed the level 80 ultimate of Dark Knight, like the entire room screamed at the auditorium. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know.
Yeah,
I do.
Oh,
But yeah, I love the kit as a tank. Questline's amazing. It develops the main character in a way that they don't really get to be developed in the actual story, which is fascinating and makes basically Dark Knight, no matter if you want to play it, if you're playing Final Fantasy 14, you should definitely play that quest line.
Ooh,
You should
you are gonna
consider it
love
mandatory.
Shadowbringers, my friend.
Oh,
Yep.
I've no doubt. I've no doubt. My
You are
God.
gonna love Shadowbringers.
And yeah, I love that mechanic where you basically get to walk the line of death and become invincible for a bit with 0 health, and it's just so fun to play around with and feels so. I was about to
Wait,
curse,
what?
but feels
Yeah.
so dang cool.
That sounds awesome.
They
when
made
you,
it even cooler
yeah.
since you've unsubbed, actually. So,
Yeah, it's very good now, yeah. But it's always funny to watch healers scramble, and I'm like, no, don't scramble when I use Living Dead anymore, because you'll ruin it at this point. You can't do that. But yeah, Living Dead is amazing, and Dark Knight is the first tank I played in 14, and I do not regret it.
The Blackest Night. Oh,
The Blackest.
I am actually a warrior main in FF14, so it's not my preferred tank, but it is so stylish and so cool, and that level 30 to 50 storyline is with Frey is awesome. Okay, so Zach, sounds like your job class was taken,
yeah.
but you still have that slot and villain and summon on your board. Who's it going to be in round 4?
You could still pick Machinist, Zach.
That's
I
true, but I'm
told
not
y'all
going
I wasn't
to.
gonna pick him.
Interestingly, I am going to pick a job, but it's a job that I don't play in 14 basically at all. I leveled it to 30, and then I was like, too many buttons. And it is Ninja.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Oh no. I was actually thinking of Final Fantasy 3 Ninja.
I was thinking of Final Fantasy 3 Ninja, and I'm also thinking of Final Fantasy Tactics Ninja.
Oh no. I really was going between two things for job class, and Ninja was one of them. I'm not kidding at all.
Now you get the other one. But
Tactics Ninja is the best.
Yeah, Tactics Ninja is what carries me through the first, I don't know, like the middle third of almost every playthrough I do of Tactics. Every time I play Tactics, I'm like, I'm gonna do something different this time, and I never do. I'm must level to Ninja very quickly. And I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna use Sid, and then I do.
I wouldn't say just FF Tactics. In FF3,
Oh,
5, and
busted in
Tactics,
3, yeah.
No, it's busted.
dual wielding is so
Yeah.
awesome in all of those games, and Ninja is just how you do it.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's a super fun class to play. I like the aesthetic of it. I even like the aesthetic of it in 14, but like I just don't want to press all those buttons. So yeah, I think it's a great class. It carries me through my play. It carried me through the end game of Final Fantasy 3 for sure. And I'm think it did in 5 too, but it's been so long I can't remember. But yeah, great job, class.
Yeah, ninja is another class I used to play in 14. But yeah, like the most recent example of ninja is that I've played around with is Final Fantasy V's, and like you said, like dual wield in that game, like the minute I got it, I was like, yeah, no, everyone's got to have this. Like I had Faris and Bart both with dual wield, and one of them was samurai and the other one was something else, and I was just like, look, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But ninja is just aesthetically so cool as well, like this like speedy, like fast, like semi magic user in some games, semi like physical attacker, always very quick.
And Shadow's kit in FF6
Shadow is
is
amazing.
inspired by Ninja, of course, and is
Yeah.
and it's like
Oh, yeah.
Final Fantasy has always done very well by ninjas, all the way like even all the way back to making them upgraded thieves in FF1.
Oh yeah, I always have a thief
Oh,
in
yeah.
Final Fantasy 1. Yeah.
But again, they're one of the two ultimate classes in FF3.
Mhm.
Edge and Shadow are super cool. FF5 Ninja with dual wield is great. One of my favorite combinations in FF5 is a Mystic Knight, or I should say a freelance endgame freelancer with with sword magic from Mystic Knight, and then X fight from Hunter or Archer, and then dual wield from Ninja.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
like casting flare on your swords and then attacking with 8 swords at once. Oh, it's so good.
pretty similar to some good Final Fantasy 5 builds.
That's
Oh
just me.
man,
I love it.
it's so fun. And Zach took it from me. I was gonna take Ninja right now. In fact, until you took it from me.
I'm scared about what your other job
uh,
pick is, though, knowing who
that
you
makes
are.
me very happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to pick it now because I can't let it go. There's a couple I was thinking of. Again, my favorite classes from FF14 are Gunbreaker, Warrior, and Monk, but it's not going to be one of those. I thought about Sage from Final Fantasy 3, because that's the other ultimate class, and they're really good. But no, I'm actually gonna go with my heart here. I'm going with Samurai, and because I love the FF14 Samurai. I like Cayenne and Oron and all those guys. But really, it's the Final Fantasy Tactics Samurai
Yeah.
who like summons sword spirits that are incredibly powerful. You can do they give you good magic damage even if you're doing a no faith team or something weird. Um and my favorite way to build Ramza in Final Fantasy Tactics is to pump up his magic a lot and give him the Iaido draw out skill, because it's like Final Fantasy Tactics are like a melee mage or a short range mage in a way that I'm not sure they've recreated in a way I love ever since. So yeah, I'm drafting Samurai, but really it's the Final Fantasy Tactics Samurai with much respect to those other samurai that I mentioned.
Yeah, that's actually what I did with Ramza too, and
It's
it's a
so
very good
good.
time. Yeah,
It's so good.
and it's also just
I
so
really
cool.
need to. I've never really tried using the samurai in tactics. I've played through it 3-4 times, and I've always avoided it because it has the line in there that your katana may break.
Yeah, I think there's officially it's like a 20 or 25% chance that your katana breaks after you use it, which is why if you but the only katana that you can never get a second copy of are the Masamune and the Chiriji Raiden. So I could be mispronouncing those. So it's helpful to use the catch trick to get multiple copies of those if you're terrified of having those break. But otherwise, just buy like 10 Murasames and and Murakumos and stuff to get you through most of the game. And
You're using logic here.
but but yeah, it's a super fun skill to use, and I just like the vibe of Final Fantasy Samurai. They're always heavily armored and powerful. I like them in all of those games I mentioned. I wish Cayenne wasn't so slow, but other than that, I just like Final Fantasy Samurai in general. And I did pick Samurai in 2019, so with my ninja plans foiled, I went for my next favorite thing. But Lucas, you can still draft a job class if you want. But Alana still has her job class
Man,
selection waiting in the wings, so you it could be stolen. You also have some character slots, a summon. You have most of the board still available. So what is your pick going to be in round 4?
I'm feeling pretty confident with most of what I've got left here, so I'm gonna take my last 2 side characters.
All right, who's the first of
I'm
those?
I'm going to start off with Aiko from Final Fantasy IX.
I like using Ico in Final Fantasy IX, but the main reason by far is double white.
Yep.
Yeah,
Her trance is so good in that game. But let's talk about
she's
Ico.
she's got great magic. She's got I actually really always liked her summons better as well. Fenrir being like giving you the weird elemental coverage, and Carbuncle giving you the cool status effects.
Oh yeah, Carbuncle with the different gems in FF9. I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's really good.
and was it Medine, which is her ultimate one. I don't know if it was just because it didn't have like a 3-minute animation that played every time you used it, but it was my preference for the ultimate attacks with that as well, and just made her feel like a really. I mean, I preferred her over, honestly, Dagger or Vivi for casting for most of my playthrough.
She gets holy as well. She's the only character to get holy, so
Yeah,
yeah, she's easily the
there,
better
there
white
is
mage.
something awesome. There is something awesome about the white mage who can, like, once they get holy, it's like, do I really need a black mage now?
Yeah, no. Not really. Yeah, Ika's great. Ika's probably the best child character in the series, maybe. I'm trying to think of anyone I like more than Aiko for
Oh,
being like under 12. I really think she's a great character, even if it's just like for how like capricious and how like loud she is, but also like how much she cares about Garnet. Like, I think she's just a really good balance of like an immature kid, but also like someone who's trying to grow up and trying to like act all big sister, even though she's not. She's like 9, I think. She's really fun.
yeah. Again, I am well known for disliking little kid characters, but Aiko's great. I mean, the only Final Fantasy kid I like more than her is maybe young Rydia.
Oh
But
yeah.
True.
but yeah, but Aiko is awesome. She's super effective in battle. Like when you meet her at the summoner village, like there's this really profound loneliness that you feel with her.
Mm.
That maybe has her sort of connecting in a way with the other sort of cast of FF9, which are a lot of people questioning their identity or their sense of being. And for her to attach to Garnet in a really adorable way, and while also being not a totally silly character, but sometimes she's a sort of just a silly little girl who acts like acts childishly, but in a way that has you feel for her instead of be annoyed by her.
Yeah, without
Um,
her, Steiner and Beatrix would never have gotten together. That's like her mistake.
yeah, I mean for that unusual letter writing campaign, I have her to thank.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I played FF9, but she starts with Moogle as a summon, right, or Mog, and then that changes into Madwyn at some point.
Yeah, it's a total reference to Final
Oh
Fantasy
yeah,
VI and
Yeah,
Terra's father, yeah.
yeah. So that's really cool, and it also serves as like a really cool way of representing her maturity through her
Mhm.
moveset as well. I thought that was pretty smart.
We've been talking about FF9 enough this podcast. I really need to replay that thing.
You do.
I
I keep feeling the same thing.
yeah, it's been something like 15 years. No, between that and I haven't played any of the Pixel remasters, and now I feel like with all this Noctis talk, maybe I should knock out Final Fantasy 15 finally. This podcast makes is horrible for my backlog and my time management.
Never enough time for play all the games.
Yeah,
Just add it to the list. TM.
Yeah, there are too many games. But we have but there are not too many picks. We are halfway through. So we're in the middle of a Lucas turn. Lucas, you have one main, two sides, and one villain drafted, with one side, one job, one summon, and one flex to go. So what is your pick going to be at the beginning of round 5?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick my last side character because I'm feeling pretty confident about my backups on the other categories. And I'm also going to, in the process of explaining this character, tip my hand as to my theme that I've been drafting around. So I'm going to take Selfie from Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay, so now I'm just struggling here. What this theme could be? Is it is it overlooked characters, or I mean,
So
not slots maybe. But yeah, Selfie from Final Fantasy VIII uses Nunchaku and has a slot based critical super critical. Let's talk about Final Fantasy VIII for the first time in this episode.
So mechanically, I know most of the characters in Final Fantasy VIII are a little bit more interchangeable. She does have good magic, great to have for that reason. However, the reason I'm taking Selfie is actually because of her personality and because of her hobbies. She is going to be...
Are you drafting characters that like trains?
I am drafting characters to make a band.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap.
That's really
Oh,
good.
I get it.
You
have a harpist
flute,
and a
harp,
singer.
Selfie is going to be our manager. She's the festival organizer.
Yeah.
She talks about being excited to have a band. She manages the website for the school. She's got all of the manager skills covered. Plus, she, along with the other characters in Final Fantasy VIII, can learn one of 8 instruments in a day. She can play whatever instrument I want her to.
Wow, I totally
She's a
forgot that about
virtuoso.
FF8.
Yeah, that's amazing.
She was probably the character on FF8 I used the least. And again, I haven't played FF8 since the 2000s, but that was totally because of I found her special ability less interesting than Renzo Kyuken or Blue Magic. But I did not see this theme coming, Lucas. So congratulations, you completely outwitted me. First by drafting Celes, and now by completing your full house. And I'm just hazarding a guess here. Is Ultros on the team to play drums with his 8 arms?
I hadn't actually considered that. I just had him on as the only, even peripherally musical villain that I could think of. But he would make a good drummer, a good roadie, and also, like I said, he is a patron of the arts and he is passionate.
You could have gone for Genesis or Kuja if you wanted a bit of poetry in your band, but yeah, I like Ultras. He's appropriate.
But I guess it's as good a time as any to move on. I still have 2 side character slots left, and I think my summon and my flex are probably not in danger of being chosen. So I'm gonna go with another side character. I have a couple I'm looking at, thinking about what to do. There's one very good boy from FF16 I'm thinking about, but I already have Clive, so I don't know if I need backup. Yeah, you know what? I am going to go with Orlando from Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's a great one. Yeah.
He's definitely on my board.
He almost makes the game too easy when you get him. but Sid Orlando is a legendary character from Final Fantasy Tactics. He can use the sword arts for that the other 3 super sword characters can use. Not counting Beowulf, who's also on my draft board. But yeah, one other thing I appreciate about Orlando, not just how powerful he is, but he sort of represents the previous generation of characters in Final Fantasy Tactics, because the war that they're in now, War of the Lions, was preceded by a different war where Orlando and Balbines, Ramza's father, were sort of the champions of each side and fought each other and had mutual respect, but obviously didn't kill each other. But so like Orlando being abandoned by his side to have him join up with the rebels on Ramza's side, with Delita being the person that sort of gently nudges Orlando into joining Ramza to make Ramza's side stronger and Ramza more likely to defeat the Temple Knights is like so Orlando is basically super strong, super fun to use, a just cool old guy that has Excalibur, but also a sort of unwitting political pawn that that is a interesting piece of the larger story of Final Fantasy Tactics. But really, let's be real. I have him on my team because he can use Lightning Stab and Dark Sword and Night Sword and all of Miliaduel's breaking moves, and he's just absolutely awesome
He's
from
so
that
busted.
perspective. He makes the game almost too easy. Like if you want to have a more fulfilling time playing Final Fantasy Tactics, use like only Ramza and generics. But if you want to just completely kick everything's ass in Final Fantasy Tactics, use like Orlando and Agrius and a ridiculous Ramza build, and you'll have a lot of fun no matter what. But I just like he was on the let's see, Final Fantasy VII Sid and Final Fantasy 16 Sid are contenders, but FF Tactics might be my favorite FF Sid still.
I mean, that's a very fair take. He does have probably the highest power level of any character in the series. Like the overpoweredness of his kit, and just like you can feel like what a cool character he is when he comes into your party and you use him, because he just dominates the battlefield. It's like amazing how powerful he feels, not only like from his reputation in the story but also in combat. It's sure, it breaks the game, but it's also extremely awesome.
That's actually a really good point. There's specifically the fact that they talk about him beforehand, and in a lot of games, when they talk up how awesome a character is, they either are really awesome until they join your party, or they're not nearly as awesome as they're talked up to be.
Yeah,
And Orlando
exactly.
definitely meets expectations, if not exceeds them.
Yeah, or they're a villain or a boss fight, and that never joins your party. But for Orlando to have this reputation established early in the game, and for him to join you later and live up to his reputation is unusual and just super fun.
I hate to bring up 14 again, but the fight there is pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, that's a very good
That is
Sid. That's
the
true.
yeah, that is the best raid in Final Fantasy 14 still.
I still quit out every time I get it because I don't have the patience for it.
You're a terrible person.
Oh wow, I'm sorry. I accidentally thought you were talking about Sid's, but you were talking about the Alliance raid. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man, he's super cool in that too.
Mhm. I love that fight.
But yeah, that's enough Sid talk for now. Unless I guess there are a couple Sids still available for
I
everyone else to
mean,
draft.
the Sid talk will continue.
Oh,
Here he goes.
all right. Well, after you, Zach, who is your pick for round 5?
So that's a great Sid, but I actually can't believe I haven't taken any characters from 16 yet, but I'm about to. The Sid from Final Fantasy 16 is phenomenal. His voice acting, Ralph Ineson, who Alana says is in like a lot of UK commercials. We haven't watched enough of them. He's such a great like sort of like beginning mentor character in Final Fantasy 16. Him being a dominant of Ramu, which is like sort of like which is really interesting because he seems like, again, like a guy who you would just like go out under the pub and have a drink with, but he also has this wisdom and this ability to lift people above him, but also like this sardonic wit about him. And he's just like so cool that like it's hard for me to even really put it into words. Like I feel like he has such a presence in Final Fantasy 16 throughout as well. And the way that they sort of acknowledge who he is throughout without really getting into any specifics, I think makes him probably the most critical Sid in any Final Fantasy game, and I think that he's deserving of it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't beaten FF16 yet, but this character is just so great, and yeah, the uniqueness of the voice actor, Ralph Ineson, is just lends so much weight to that character's presence in the game, and yeah, every scene he's in is just like my attention is immediately there because he just controls the scene so well as a performance, and very cool character, dominant of Rambo.
Yeah, his entrance is so dramatic with just flashes of lightning saving you from what are they? Ironborn bandits or yeah, parts of the Iron Army. To him being just so immediately roguish and likable with just that killer gravelly voice, and you can tell that even though he's this rebel leader, he loves everyone on his team, and there's somehow roughness and warmth to him, and sort of he's kind of, I don't know, he has more dad energy than Clive, but also just is totally likable from the moment you meet him.
There's a total like balance between, I wouldn't say world weariness, I can't think of a better way of putting it, but like the Sin stuff. Like you know that like Sid has ridden the gamut of life basically and has the scars and the experience to show for it, but like that makes him more determined than ever. Sid is like a person who cares for the people, and even though he's got this great power and has come from a fairly responsible, like high up background, well, not high up, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but he's got like a position somewhere else that he abandoned. But he comes at every problem knowing that, like, you know, it's not about him, it's about everybody else in the world and saving the world. And he's great. Like the very first trailer dropped and Sid spoke, I was like, who's this man? And this is like the man who's been in like The Office UK. He's in The Green Knight. He's in Game of Thrones as well, obviously. And like Ralph Ineson is he's pretty much a legend in the UK. You just know that voice. Like he's been on adverts for razor blades, and there's this man who like turns into Ramu, and I'm like, but you're selling me a Gillette razor somewhere else. Like, what am I supposed to do with this like balance of responsibility? But yeah, Sid is like Sid's been great in some other games, like 14 Sid's great, and 12 Sid is really great actually now that I think about it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, look, I think basically every Sid from almost 2 onward
Yeah.
has been an iconic character.
Uh-huh.
And we've already drafted 2 great ones.
Right. And it's amazing that he takes this character and really elevates it even beyond.
And then Lucas is just also telling you, you should play FF16, buddy.
I know.
It's real good.
I have not gotten into a Final Fantasy game since 12. I tried 15, I didn't love it, and I'd kind of written it off as, okay, this isn't for me, and that's okay.
Mm.
But hearing everybody talk about it, and especially seeing Zach's review and listening to people talking about it on the different podcasts has definitely gotten me to at least consider it.
But next I want to hear some of Alex's ideas. Alex, you have 2 side characters, your summon and your flex left to draft. So what is your pick for round 5?
Yeah, guess I'm feeling pretty loosey-goosey with the side characters at this point, so I might just see where that ends up going. But I guess the only one that I'm worried might end up getting picked, even though it could very well not, is my summon, which is not Alexander, unfortunately. But I think it's a pretty cool one as well, which is Yojimbo from FF10.
Yeah, love that.
Oh my god, you're kidding.
Oh, was that yours?
There was 2 I was going between, and Yojimbo was one of them.
Okay,
Wow.
so I made the right choice. Okay. According to you, Sollosi, according to your logic of just making the most drama as possible.
Yeah, no, mission accomplished.
Yeah, FF10 Yojimbo, like, yeah, the summoning himself is cool, and the design is amazing, as anybody who's seen it can attest. But what really stands out is just like recruiting him, and then just the whole kind of bartering mercenary kind of framing of his character, that you actually have to pay him in order to perform for you, and the more you give him, the better he'll do. And it's just like a really cool idea. Just yeah, love the whole design of him, and I mean, there isn't too much to say. He's just a sick summon with a really clever premise behind him.
And a great dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was also a factor of why I wanted Yojimbo.
Yeah,
But
Diagora is adorable.
yeah. But the mechanic of paying for damage in Final Fantasy has been around for a while. I mean, it's part of why the Final Fantasy V Samurai can be pretty strong. But to communicate that in a summon, and to actually give you a use for your end game piles and piles of gil, for something so powerful and effective,
Mhm.
is pretty cool. And it's also a pretty cool boss fight in FF14.
It is, yeah. How many people had to go back to the Perseid Temple in the international version, or
Oh
the
no, and
and then
I sure
fight,
did.
yeah,
and
fight
Dark Veil
Dark
4,
Dark
who,
Valapur, yeah.
just paid for Zenmato, who was just like, yeah, have
I
like
mean,
a million gil, here you go.
I had to.
Yeah.
There's no way I was gonna like level up to beat that thing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
unless you want to dedicate hours of your life just for that purpose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that lady in the blue dress isn't gonna recruit herself to my blitzball team, so I had to go back there.
There you go. That's exactly why you went back there. Yeah, I think it's a great idea of like communicating the samurai job in a summon form, but it's also such a cool summon for a Final Fantasy game that's inspired by like Southern Asia, like to use like really beautiful summery
Mm,
colors for a samurai design. I think is a really I mean Final Fantasy X has some of the best summon designs in the series anyway.
absolutely, yeah.
Still, I would say, even with some of 16's really great designs, but it's such a cool original idea, and I'm like surprised that it's not really been reused outside of that one boss fight or that one sequence in 14 in the
Yeah,
Hildebrand quests. Yeah,
and that's barely a cameo.
right.
They haven't really brought back Yojimbo.
No.
And also, I mean, Yojimbo with this samurai coded imagery and evoking the Kurosawa film, everything about the design is great. I mean, if I got Ninja stolen from me and Yojimbo stolen from me, at least I got to compromise by taking samurai as a job instead. But I really did want to have Ninja and the Samurai summon, but alas.
Never mind.
Zach, Aleks, you're killing me, Smalls.
You're welcome.
What was that?
You did ask for drama.
I
gave
did.
it to
Yeah,
you.
I can't be that upset. And I don't feel like I was ill prepared like in the Suikoden podcast. This is going great. I have a giant grin on my face being able to draft on a podcast again. But Alana, it's also been a while since you've drafted on a podcast, and you have 2 in a row now. End of the 5th round, beginning of the 6th round. You have one main, one side, your villain, your job, and that's it. Yeah, those are the 4 spots you have left. So who's it gonna be?
Yeah,
One at a time.
they're all. I feel again. I think I'm in a similar position to Lucas, and I think I'm safe relatively across the board. Side character is the one I'm tussling with because I've got like a number of picks, and I feel like any one of them could either go or not go. Like it depends on what people are playing with, but I've gone for a lot of newer Final Fantasy characters, so I feel like I need to go with older ones. So I'm going to go for Faris as my last side character.
You are kidding! No.
Nice.
Oh my god! I was either going with her or Landu last time. Oh my god!
I'm really glad I went for her then. I love
Oh, you're
Faris. No, I'm not kidding. You should
I
know.
love her. I love her too. Look, you and I are the top 2 pirate fans and RPG fan. Okay.
Why do you-
Arr.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Faris is great. Like a real cool inversion in like you have like Final Fantasy IV and a lot of Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy IV's cast to death, and honestly, like I only played 5 was the last Final Fantasy game I beat, like the newest, most recent one. like I'd reviewed it for RPG Fan. That was the first time I ever beat it. In the Pixel remaster, and I've always loved Ferris's design, like long purple hair, coat, masculine, but definitely, extremely strong and powerful and self-assured and things like that. And also, she's the princess because she's Tycoon's daughter. But yeah, I love her attitude, I love her adventurousness, and I love the way that she is just very self-assured and very herself. I think if I was gonna play her in a job, I can't remember what I used her as. It's killing me. I think I definitely used her as a samurai with something else. I can't remember. But I love her, and I have to have a pirate on my team. She's great.
I think she was the character I used the most as a monk in Final Fantasy
I
V.
think I used her as a monk as well for a long time. Yeah.
But her and Bart's I always had as ninja, but
Mhm.
Bart's was sort of my knight mystic knight.
Oh no, I had her as
archer
Mystic
ninja.
Knight. You're
Oh,
right.
okay, yeah.
Yes, I had her as Mystic Knight. Yeah.
But I would have her dual. I would have Ferris dual wielding
Yeah.
katanas or ninja weapons often.
Yeah.
I think, or as a monk just to punch stuff because she's sort of her and Bart's are the better physical characters as well. Krila and Lena are the better magic characters. But again, in Final Fantasy V, you can sort of make anyone anything. But Ferris is just awesome. She is this rough pirate who also wants to discover her past and make a connection with Alexander Tycoon and Lena. Bart's is a bit of a crush on her, which is adorable. And yeah, no, I love Ferris. She's absolutely my favorite Final Fantasy V character, and I sort of didn't think anyone else would pick her. So each one of you has stolen something from me this draft. I love it and hate it at the same time.
I was actually
know you
mulling
too
over
well.
Ferris as well. So
Oh.
yeah, we do have a lot
Oh,
of Ferris
man.
love on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Oh no,
Which
so
is
so
fair
I'm
because by far the most interesting character from FF5.
Oh
By
yeah.
far.
Oh yeah. I adore FF5, but you don't play that game for the characters or the story at all.
no,
No.
it's for the neat stuff in the map in the last third of the game
Oh,
and
yeah.
the job system. The job system's like 80% of it. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right. So I think the rest of my board is safe. Basically, I'm very glad I went for that. So I will just get villain out of the way because I think that's the only one that's potentially going to get taken at this point. My villain is probably something I can't really talk about much because it's from Final Fantasy XIV. I'm sorry, but it's not who you might think it is. It is Elidibus.
Oh.
Yeah, and Sollosi, where did you stop playing?
I stopped playing. I know about the Elidibus fight
Yep.
in I think it's 6.3.
Yep.
But I stopped right
It's
before
5.3,
that. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
5.3.
But
But I stopped right before that.
that is
actually.
that is the moment that basically said to me, like, Emmett Sulk is incredible. Like Emmett Sulk,
I know what the trial is. So
Yeah.
but that's not a spoiler for me. But yeah.
yeah, Emmett
I get it.
Sulk is the best Final Fantasy XIV villain. Like, there's no disputing that to me. Elidibus's story through the patches carries on that whole legacy and the meaning of everything that Emmett Sulk was doing to a different way. But I think it really is that trial that just totally elevates it for me. Like, there's debates about whether 5.0 or 5.3 has the better story backing. And I think to me it's 5.3 just because of the way that it embraces Final Fantasy history but turns it on its head and does something really incredible with it thematically and narratively. The music in that fight is amazing. The drama in that fight is amazing. And it just really encapsulates and truly puts a bow on the end of what is, Shadowbringers. It's phenomenally good. And Elidibus is not technically even done after that. And I'm not even going to say anything beyond that point because I haven't finished. I'm unsubbed right now, so I haven't finished the Endwalker patches, but I'm well aware I've done up to 8 in the raids, and I know it goes further than that. But it goes way beyond that. And I know Elidibus had a bit of a jokey reputation before that, he just kept popping up and everyone was like, oh yeah. But Shadowbringers really elevated him and his story, especially because it plays on so many moments that you have throughout Shadowbringers with another character that not Emmett Selk, another one. Might wield an axe, maybe. And that all. That's all I'll say there. But yeah, Elidibus is great.
Now I'm sad.
Oh, you've seen most of it
Oh
anyway.
no,
By this point, yeah.
I've seen that, but I
Yeah.
love that character.
Right, yeah, exactly. But yeah, you know, you'll know what I mean when you go back to it. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic like examination of heroism and just trying to save the world in the way that you think is the right way. It puts the warrior of light, your warrior of light, even. It just like adds that dichotomy again. It's sort of like what Endwalker does as well, and answers in a different way. I think that fight in Shadowbringers is kind of like, well, hang on a minute, what's different to what I'm doing to what you're doing? And it's really fascinating. So yeah, Elidibus rules, and I'm sorry that I didn't pick Emmet Selk, but I think Elidibus just edges it for me.
I mean, Elidibus is phenomenal, and I think that I actually did that trial earlier today, just in a roulette.
You did.
But I think Elidibus, I feel like the writers didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with Elidibus for a long time. And once they discovered what they could do with Elidibus, in 5.3 specifically, they've kind of carried it forward through Endwalker and into the patches, and they have made Elidibus like almost like the central figure of some things. And I think that speaks to the quality of the character, and how Elidibus in many ways is like the best of them, but also the worst of them. Elidibus is a fascinating character, and yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, that's a great pick.
All right, so I mean, this podcast has me dangerously close to resubbing to Final Fantasy 14 with all this Vana and Elidibus talk. But Aleks, in the danger of you also being going closer to the edge.
Hey.
Hey, Final Fantasy 14 joke. You have 2 side characters and your flex left to pick. So what's it going to be for round 6?
Yeah, I'm feeling I should get another side character in. And I'm looking at my list now and realizing it's quite the sausage fest, and I'm not totally down with that because I feel like Noctis could really use some strong female representation in his life.
Agreed.
So unfortunately, Celes and Terra, Ferris, all gone. And part of me wants to say Y'shtola because I think she's awesome, but I also feel wrong about that since I'm not all caught up in FF14.
You've seen Y'shtola's best scene.
Yeah,
You're good.
Okay.
Little son.
Yeah, that was.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Legendary put down.
But still, I feel wrong about it. So I think I might just go with like a classic, but a classic good one, which is Yuna from FF10.
No!
Oh, you were gonna go with the FF10-2 route for your main, weren't you, Alana?
Oh,
weren't
snap.
you?
Come on, Alana, you couldn't think that Yuna was just gonna get unpicked. She's such a good character.
Oh god!
Oh, this is so good.
Oh, we might yet see lightning drafted in this episode.
Oh wow!
And I mean, Yuna just man, the conflictedness, the quiet strength of this character is just really fascinating, and just also such a powerful character. The fact that she can just summon, then she becomes the focus of the battle, along with her summon, and that's just such a cool aspect of that game, and it just really elevates her as a character in a way that like I don't blame anybody for being kind of upset that she's not the main character in FF10 over Titus, because she is like such a crucial role in the story from all angles. The fact that she has to kind of go on this pilgrimage that she's fated to, and like feels conflicted about it, has to wrestle with her feelings kind of differently between like all the different character dynamics. The whole party is basically adapted around her, and she just tries to stay strong, but shows these moments of vulnerability that Titus is able to bring out of her, and that really adds so much to their romance, which is really well depicted in that game, I think. And yeah, Yuna's awesome. Late game, just skipping around that sphere grid, giving her all the best black magic, and just making her the ultimate powerhouse from all angles, and basically 1v the rest of the game. Just awesome stuff. Really really love Yuna.
I should have picked her
The
instead of Elidibus.
I mean, I definitely wasn't gonna pick Elizabeth.
I know, right? No one was.
the I find it interesting that you make that comparison with Noctis, or you mentioned her alongside Noctis, because I hadn't really thought about those characters as having some similarities that they kind of feel like they do when you're actually talking about them.
Mm.
And I'm also slightly concerned with the fact that you have Delita in there with the two of them.
Yeah, that's true. He could really get his manipulation going.
I feel like something very bad is going to happen.
But you know what? We got Barrett there, and Barrett's not gonna let anything back
Yeah.
him down. Like, I don't have Gladio, sure, but Barrett's there, just holding down the fort.
Actually,
making
yeah,
sure nothing
maybe
bad
Barrett will
happens.
temper down, get Delita pointed the right way a little bit more, a little more idealism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Barrett could give a good talking to Delta for sure.
I have a feeling Barrett's going to be the father figure for all three of those,
Uh-huh.
who are maybe missing some strong firm guidance in their life.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well, and yeah,
You might even say Barrett might pity the fool.
Oh no! Oh no!
Come on!
Oh.
Oh no!
Oh, now that I'm back, the jokes are only going to get cornier. I'm
Oh.
sorry. All right, well, Zach, you had expressed some admiration for Alex's team. You still have some team spots to fill out. You have your summon and your flex. Your villain might be safe because you're the only person who's yet
That's
to choose
true.
their villain.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait on that.
So that might be a safe round 8 pick for you. But what's your pick going to be for round 6?
So Wes isn't here, but I need to right a wrong from someone they stole from me. About a year ago now, maybe a little more, and they stole Alana from Dragon Quest IV from me, and now she's on my team.
Awesome.
So that's my flex pick.
No notes. Alana is maybe the most fun Dragon Quest IV character, and
Yeah.
I mentioned this on another podcast. For one who looks so non-threatening, there
Indeed.
is so much murder in that tiny body.
It gets to something Aleks talks about a lot, which is like this idea of like narrative and gameplay meeting, and I think it's the way that she as you're saying, like she's like a princess, she has like a very specific character design, but then she's like punching walls of ice and like doing like all this insane stuff, and also in battle she is by a pretty significant margin. In all the versions of Dragon Quest IV that I've played, which is a fair number at this point, she's the most powerful. And I think that in terms of like we're talking about Terra and Celes being like great female characters, and I'm not saying that Alana is on that level in terms of writing, but I think in terms of the way she's being presented in an NES game, like is such a badass. Like it's just so cool. And like I can't even imagine what it's like to play Dragon Quest IV and not have her in my party at every moment she is available, because she's just so awesome.
Yeah, she's so awesome. She maxes strength and agility way before anyone else is even close to it. So
Yep.
her strength actually sort of stops going up after a while. And if you are a crazy person and level everyone up to like 90, then the characters that can use Metal King swords are maybe a little better. But for the first 99% of the game, Alana is a complete powerhouse and is absolutely the most fun character to use, even though she can really only just fight.
Yeah.
you just use fight every turn, and it's the best choice.
You were mentioning the design. I love the fact that she looks like she's going to be a mage character with the hat and the cloak, and just completely turns that on its head. Like you
And
said.
her priest buddy looks like a knight,
Yeah.
but really he's the one standing behind Alana, throwing heals at her while she kicks ass.
Also, like the second best character in the game when it's not the OG version where he does the dumbest stuff.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Kirill's
no,
terrible in the
yeah,
OG.
oh yeah. In the OG version, when listeners, in case you're uninitiated or haven't played Dragon Quest IV, every character other than the hero is just run by AI. So Christo slash Cyril is the best healer, but he sometimes just casts instant death spells, which are they were called Beat and Defeat on the NES, and I think are now uh oh shoot,
Are
what do
they
they
thwack and
yeah,
kathwack?
yeah, Thwack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, Thwack and Cuthwack now. So he just casts those over and over when really he should be using his good healing. Oh boy, it was frustrating trying to use him. Like I would use I would use Mina instead of him sometimes just because she didn't have no Thwack or Cuthwack. No matter who your healer is in Dragon Quest IV, Alana is your best ass kicker.
And the introduction to her chapter is also just so good, where she's just getting like irritated of being cooped up and just literally like breaks out of the castle. It's just amazing.
Yeah, she pulls a Dogi from East move. Okay, so all right, if we're talking about our favorite other wall breakers in RPGs, I think we should maybe move on to the next pick, which is my pick. And I think my side character pick is safe for the moment because Lucas has his side characters already chosen. So I'm looking at summon or flex. And I think I'm going to go with my flex right now, informed heavily by recency bias for two things. Because, first of all, there was a recent game announcement that brought this character to the forefront.
Oh.
Oh yeah, you know where this is going. And second, I drafted
This was one of my two choices on my flex.
Mhm.
I
no.
drafted this. I drafted this character in our Dragon Quest draft 2 years ago, and also Zach just drafted Alina, so now I'm gonna draft my favorite Dragon Quest villain, Pizarro.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, there's literally I had two choices and that was the other one.
Yep.
That's
I
awesome.
I had a couple I was thinking of for my flex, but you drafting Elena just decided to set me over the edge for it. Pizarro is awesome. You get to use him in the DS version of Dragon Quest IV. He has a really good character arc that's hinted at early in Dragon Quest IV, and then you finally encounter him. He's this incredibly cool, dangerous character who's been driven to despair because his lover, an elf named Rose, was murdered. But then you find out that he was set up, and you can revive Rose in the Dragon Quest IV remake, and then he joins your party. When he joins your party, he is absolutely awesome. He can use awesome equipment, and he has hero spells and mage spells, and looks fantastic. He's like the coolest hidden boss in the Dragon Quest Heroes games. And
Mhm.
recently, for the Dragon Quest Monsters new game, it's a prequel starring young Pizarro, and that made me interested in Dragon Quest Monsters for maybe the first time. Because I haven't really played any of those games, but with this one being about young Pizarro, now I kind of want to play them. So, but also, I mean, because Pizarro does have this sort of edgy look, I wonder if he's almost like a Final Fantasy character that wandered into a Dragon Quest game, except he has those Akira Toriyama alien ears.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Dragon Quest, for all the things I love about it, doesn't often do villain characters like incredibly well. I mean, like they can be like sort of like these grand, sort of dark creatures, and I think Dolmegus is a great one as well.
Mhm.
But Sorrow is like the only one that I think does the sympathetic villain thing, and I think that they maybe kind of like vaguely hinted at it in the very original version, but I think in the DS versions, he becomes a very sympathetic character and very similar to you. Like I have like basically no interest in monster collecting games, but you're giving me a Sorrow prequel, and
I well, the
I
thing
think
is,
I think I'm here for it.
well, the thing is, I like Pokemon, and I completely go bonkers for the monster recruiting in Dragon Quest V. It's a little surprising I haven't gotten into the Dragon Quest Monsters games in the past, but now, so I've always been intrigued. But now I am like, now I think I have to play this.
Oh
Is
yeah, I mean it's a day one purchase pre-order game for me, and I do not like Pokemon, so that speaks to how excited I am.
I mean, I like Pokemon enough to be attending the Pokemon World Championships with my partner in a few weeks. So
That's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
I can say I enjoy Pokemon a little bit. But Lucas, I'm not sure if there's a way you can finagle getting a Pokemon character onto your draft board. So regardless of how much you like Pokemon, it is your pick next. You have your job class, your summon, and a flex to go.
Summons are kind of like Pokemon, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm going to go with my summon pick. Again, at this point, I don't think I'm worried about the draft, somebody drafting over me, but that is the one spot that lots of people have left. I'm going to go with Sylph from Final Fantasy IV.
Interesting. Okay.
First of all, it's just an awesome summon. It does neutral damage, it gets past wall, and it heals your party. And second, it summons 3 fairies for 1, and I need backup dancers.
That again, I
I
love
knew
the
it was gonna
commitment
come
to.
back to that. Yeah.
I love the commitment to the bit. I truly do. Yeah, I'm struggling to remember. Sylph doesn't come back in Final Fantasy V, does it? No,
I
I don't.
don't
I don't. I don't
think
think it does. I don't.
so. Actually, I don't think it's come back in any of them offhand that I can think
I
of.
don't think so. Yeah.
But it's actually a pretty cool optional moment in Final Fantasy IV because
Yeah,
going through the Sylph layer or the Sylph cave is where you learn that that Yang is in recovery and not dead. And also gives you this very, very useful summon for the rest of the game for Rydia to summon. And and so yeah, no, I totally get why Sylph is a really, really good um summon with surprising amount of utility, and it's neutral damage and not wind elemental. I guess there wasn't wind in
there wasn't
FF4
wind
yet.
in 4,
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. I sort of assumed it was wind, but that's yeah, I guess I don't know
No, that's one of
the
those
four
fun
mechanics as well.
that's one of those fun things like FF4 Quake is also neutral elemental because they didn't have earth damage. So the way that they got around that is that it just doesn't hit flying enemies.
Cool. Well, Sylph isn't your only draft pick that you're doing right now,
It's
Lucas.
true.
You have your job and your flex left to go.
I think I'm gonna.
And let's see. Aleks still can pick his flex, and Alana can still pick her class. So there is technically a non-zero chance of you getting sniped for your final pick. But that again depends on how niche or unique your choices are. So what's it going to be for the first pick of round 7?
So I'm gonna go ahead and pick my job. There are 2 things that this job fills. One is it's going to give me a little bit of elemental utility, which I've got some white magic, some buffing, some healing. Outside of Celes and Selfie, I don't really have anything for elemental damage. It's also going to give me more cowbell.
Wow.
Oh,
So I'm going to go with the
I'm
Geomancer.
so happy.
Wow. I hope if they bring Geomancer into FF14, I hope bells are their weapons. But yeah, Geomancer in Final Fantasy V, absolutely iconic pajamas for that whole game.
They just look so comfy.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas, I love how like you took like probably the most contested pick in the whole draft to start. Like Celeste seemed to be on like everybody's list, and then the rest of them are just like like whatever. Nobody else is gonna have these characters. On the
Echo
list.
was the only one I could have even considered. Ultros as well, maybe, but yeah.
There's a reason I took her first.
Yeah.
She was one of my maybes for my first pick, but the other Lucas, your other 6 were nowhere near my draft board.
I figured I was pretty safe once I got into the theme, and I was thinking Celes might get taken with one of the other characters we were joking about beforehand was Bart's being taken, or Butts from Final Fantasy V. And he was my backup for main, so I figured I was safe on that one too.
Yeah, I don't think Butts is one of the most popular FF protagonists.
But he is a master pianist.
That's true. If you play enough
Yeah.
pianos, you become a master pianist. That's just science.
That's true.
Lex.
All right, but It's not quite time for you to flex yet, Lucas, because it's my pick now, and I have 2 left. I have 1 side character and 1 summon, and for both of those positions, I'm going between a couple, and I don't know if any of them are contested or not. And you know, I did draft Bahamut with my second pick 4 years ago. I'm not sure if I want Bahamut though.
Such a
I
mainstream pick, Sollosi.
I know. I think well, let's see. The summon I wanted to take was unjustly ripped from my board.
Just pick Fat Chocobo or something.
No, I'm gonna be extra basic. I'm picking Odin.
That is not extra basic. That's
Um,
Odin is so cool.
Odin is awesome. They somehow made him uh a romantic character in Final Fantasy VI,
Yeah,
where he
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
where he falls in love or has a possibly has a tryst with the human queen of an ancient kingdom. Odin turns into an awesome robo horse in Final Fantasy 13.
That's true.
Odin has an inflated role in Final Fantasy 16 that's pretty interesting. It's sort of a wandering summon in FF14, and it's really cool. And Zantetsuken is awesome in basically every game it takes part in.
Mhm.
And I also have a soft spot for Odin because Odin's room in Final Fantasy V is the best place to level up in the middle part of the game.
Oh yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, so when I'm job grinding in Final Fantasy V, I go to that room with those statues called Objet d'Art that and just fight a million of them to level up, you know, ninja and samurai and geomancer and all these other classes I didn't get to take. But yeah, Odin's the pick. I'm not sure which specific Odin. I'll say the FF6 one just because I really like a romantic angle for that character
I
that
think
time
that's a
around.
good call.
I do too. Yeah.
Oh, and also there's the King of Baron angle from FF4 is a
Uh-huh.
cool moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Odin is almost always cool wherever they put him. But FF6 Odin is especially unusual.
That's
for me.
true.
hmm
Yeah, I think that Odin's design in 16 is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
don't love Barnabas as a character.
Yeah.
No, I
I
don't.
think he's kind of weak.
Odin is way cooler
Odin
than his dominant. That's
is very
true.
cool. Yes.
Yeah, I had a combat build based around Zantetsuken towards the end of the game, so it was
Yeah.
very fun.
I think that build is awesome. I messed around with it a little bit, but you have to sort of build everything around the Odin skills.
Yeah, it's
If
fine.
you in 16, but I liked moves like wind up too much to
Yeah.
totally abandon them. So I used a weirdo mixed build by the end of 16, but the Odin skills are really really fun.
Yeah, again, like it's kind of one of those summons that stayed really consistent throughout the entire series. Like, apart from the Eidolon in 13, like it's always been Odin on the back of Sleipnir, right? Whereas in 13, it's really just Sleipnir with lightning riding it instead, which is still really cool. I really love Odin in 13, but yeah, just a really consistently good, solid summon with a really, like everyone loves the samurai sword moment where you just like slice through someone, and that is essentially what Zantetsuken is, right? So yeah.
But let's see,
Oh,
Zach,
man.
you still have 2 picks left, including your summon, and also you also have an uncontested villain spot and an uncontested summon spot. So I'm not sure it really matters which order you pick, Zach, in terms of things getting
That's
stolen.
true.
In terms of things getting stolen, that is.
Yeah, I am. The villain pick. The 2 best villains in Final Fantasy history are still on the board, and I'm not really sure what to do with that.
Kefka and
Um,
Sephi.
No, it's obviously Cloud of Darkness and Garland.
All right.
Exactly. It's definitely chaos. Man, I don't know who to take between these 2.
If you want some truly iconic voice acting, I mean, you have Sidolphus from FF16. You could also go with Keith David Chaos from Dissidia.
Now, I don't know the name of Emmett Selk's voice actor, but I am going to go with Emmett Selk. I mean, like, Kefka's Kefka. I should probably take Kefka, but I'm not going to. I think Emmett Selk is such a phenomenal villain that I don't think that there's any choice. Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with everything Alana said about Elidibus, and I think Elidibus is in many ways, every bit the equal by the time you've played through all of it, to Emmett Selk. But Emmett Selk is such a multifaceted villain, and and I don't want to go too far into it because like Endwalker does like a lot of great work in like contextualizing who Emmett Selk is and some of the things that Emmett Selk does in Shadowbringers that makes Emmett Selk an even better villain, which is incredible because like we had a villains episode about Emmett Selk before we knew any of that, and we already thought Emmett Selk was worthy of a conversation about that, just because of the intensity of his love for his people, the intensity of his belief in what he's doing, and it and like his whole attitude and his sort of laissez like blase attitude, everything that comes together to create who Emmett Selk is, I think makes him probably the best villain in Final Fantasy history. Kefka is iconic for a reason, obviously, but I think Emmett Selk is untouchable, honestly.
No joke. Emmett Selk was my second choice for villain after
Yeah,
Beatrix.
that's fair.
I,
Yeah.
I think in terms of being a main villain, it's the total package. There's a backstory that is absolutely whether you want to call it relatable or not is I don't know that's up to you, but it's absolutely compelling. His attitude is interesting. You're never really sure what side he's on for a while until sort of all the cards are on the table, and and his dialogue's great. I think Emmett Selk is an incredible villain. Probably my favorite Final Fantasy 14 NPC character.
Emmett Selk came on screen, I was like, oh no, you were like doing everything I love about like villains, but also in a way that's like really interesting. And then like Shadowbringers still proceeded to like subvert that to a degree. And yeah, I think like him and Elizabeth sit like in the same scale, basically. Like they're balanced together. And Emmett Selk, I think, is it does I don't know who I don't want to say who does worse things because they both do pretty terrible things, right? But like they're so I think Emmett Selk's got like the broader personality, and as Zach said, like he is multifaceted. Like Emmett Selk is funny, like so funny,
Yeah.
but he also does some like ridiculous things, and like you've also got like the context of what he does over the history of Eorzea and of who he becomes and who he is. Like it's incredibly fascinating. And then for Endwalker to like take everything and then like contextualize it, as Zach said again, and also like yeah, I mean, like I can't really do it. I can't really talk about Endwalker at this point because it's still like pretty new.
But yeah, I think everything from the performance to the motivation to the end game of Emmett Selk is absolutely brilliant. And again, that is without me having played Endwalker. So if you're telling me there's more Emmett Selk in Endwalker, or at least more insight into him in Endwalker, again, I'm just getting dangerously closer and closer
There
to
is a
resubbing.
whole lot more Emmett Selk. And Emmett
Oh
Selk isn't even
man.
the best character in Endwalker.
Oh, you're not telling me that Xenos is saved by Endwalker, are you?
Not saved, but there's a bit.
Improved.
There's a
Improved,
bit, yeah.
certainly.
We've already
Okay,
talked about the best
okay.
Endwalker character.
Oh, that's right. Of
Indeed.
course, yeah. How dare I forget Vana? But anyway, uh, Aleks, your villain is already chosen. You have one side character and your flex yet to go. Um, and but on the back end, I still have one side character, and Lucas still has his flex left to go. So you're not completely safe.
Hmm.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
no, you are completely safe because
Or wait,
we're
'cause we're going
yeah,
now,
yeah.
right?
I forgot about the
Yeah.
snake order. Yeah, Lucas and I
Yeah.
are both picking after you. So, what's it going to be? Your side or your flex?
Yeah, so I'm looking at my team and do really like it, but I think what I'm missing right now is some levity. These are all pretty serious people on here right now. So thinking about what my options are, I'm gonna go with a character that I was pretty confident wasn't gonna get picked because I know there are some FF8 haters in here right now. But Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the game, if not my favorite part of the game, is the Laguna flashback. So I'm picking Laguna Loire
You
as
picked
my
the best part of Final Fantasy VIII. Good job.
yeah. So
That's weird. I don't see anyone picking the Imperial Norg.
yeah. So I mean, those Laguna flashbacks are kind of the highlight of that game. It just like they come out of nowhere as you're progressing through the game. Honestly, feels like a fever dream where you're not really sure where you are in terms of time or reality or anything, and you're just suddenly playing this guy with a machine gun who's a really good leader, but a total goofball at the same time. And that combination really works out for him as a character. Uh, it's interesting just to have like a character with a machine gun in a JRPG. I'm not sure if it was done at that point. I highly doubt it. But it was a cool pick, and yeah, the Laguna sections are amazing. The way they develop his romance with Julia, and you're just as a player just trying to like figure out how this all fits into the larger narrative until you finally find out. And I'm not going to spoil any of that, but
You can spoil a 24-year-old game. It's fine.
nah,
But, but,
I have a
but,
friend who's probably going to listen to this who
oh,
still
okay,
needs to
okay.
play FF8.
Maybe
So.
maybe we shouldn't spoil them. But again, I'm the person who doesn't care about spoilers the least of anyone I know. So yeah, bad example. But so yeah, I have to say again, FF8 not my favorite Final Fantasy. I don't hate it. I just like a bunch of others more. But uh you also neglected to mention his awesome theme song.
Yeah, Man with the Machine Gun.
Man with a Machine Gun is great.
It's yeah, one of the most unique pieces of music in the series, I think, and yeah, it just totally owns. And
FF8 soundscape is pretty experimental for its time, especially. But and Man with the Machine Gun is a highlight.
Yeah. I might have a hot take here, but I think FF8 might have Uematsu's best soundtrack.
I would not oppose that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Huh.
I'm not sure I would say best just because again I love so many of them. But
Yeah.
it's a strong point. Absolutely,
it's a top tier one for sure. Yeah, Laguna is my
It's at least
favorite.
underrated.
Yeah.
6.
6 is right up there too. Yeah.
Yeah, 6
of course.
is just so iconic that I might give it the edge, but I'd probably throw 8 in right after that, honestly.
Yeah, Laguna is the best part of Final Fantasy VIII. I love every time he like cramps every time he sees Julia. I'm just like, dude, like, come on, you can do it.
Yeah, just a very, very complete character, very interesting like tonal shift for the game, and yeah, just the way his segments are incorporated just elevate that game to another level, I think.
Well, okay, thank you, Aleks. You have one spot left, your flex, but we aren't going to get to that quite yet. Alana, you have 2 picks in a row, your last 2 picks of the draft, your main character, and your job. So, I mean, it doesn't matter which order you pick exactly, but one at a time, please. Are you going to go with your main or your job first?
Let's get my job out of the way because I want to carry on the Final Fantasy VIII talk. I'm really sad. I thought you were going to steal this from me, Sollosi, because I know how much you like Gunbreaker.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it. It was going to be Gunbreaker or Samurai probably.
And like I thought Gunbreaker was really cool before they made it into 14. Like I actually kind of don't mind Squall. Like he's a brat and a whiny teenager, but I totally understand the situation that he's in, and also like so many people will like that at his age. Like how many?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like my brother was like that, and I remember my brother playing that game when I don't know how old he was, probably like early teens, and he was definitely like Squall at that point. It was like late 90s, early 2000s, so definitely captured that vibe. But Gunbreaker is my tank of choice in Final Fantasy XIV, and it is the coolest, flashiest, most fun tank to play because there are so many explosions and there are a lot of buttons.
It has cooldowns in between the cooldowns.
So many buttons, but I love the buttons so much. But yeah, like it's just such a cool idea for a tank, and like it's a pretty DPS heavy tank as well. Like you always have to be weaving in and out, so it's pretty difficult to play well. But I think it really rewards. It's really rewarding to play as well. Like I think tanking is a lot easier than you like think it
It
is. Like I was scared to do it initially. Now I'm just like, oh, I want to turn my brain off for like an hour. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
tank a load of dungeons and
Yeah, my starting class in 14 was a DPS because I was told that
yeah.
that only veterans should tank. But when I tried
That's
wait,
wrong.
when I tried warrior for the first time, I'm like, oh, tanking's my favorite thing.
Oh yeah,
Someone told you to play monk, which is probably the hardest job to play
right.
outside of
Yeah,
maybe black
I
mage.
yeah,
think
well,
ninja is probably harder, but yeah,
ninja, black mage, and summoner are complicated. But
summoner
my
is
Summoner's
not
not
anymore.
yeah, it's simpler. Okay, that's probably for the best. But anyway,
Crazy
yeah, my
simple.
my grid is like the one axis is do I want to break my fingers, and one axis is do I want to wait in line a long time. So like monk is break my fingers and wait a long time. Samurai is don't break fingers,
Yeah.
do wait a long time. Gunbreaker is break my fingers but don't wait a long time, and warrior is my fingers are fine and I don't have to wait long. So warrior is my main.
But you look so cool as a gunbreaker,
Gun-
and I love warrior
the
too.
trench coat,
Oh.
trench coat and the armor is so cool.
I can't even remember what my warrior of
Uh,
light looks like as a gunbreaker right now. I'm pretty sure it's armor, but I have had the trench coat and I have done the near coat, so I've done it all.
the sorry, the Gunbreaker trailer when they first announced it
Oh,
was a cat boy with dark hair and like and a scar over one of his eyes, or I think, and I looked at that and go, oh my god, that's my hero.
uh-huh.
And then I ended up using Gunbreaker so much, I'm like, I'm just reenacting the trailer from a couple years ago.
God, I've never had that moment.
Uh,
It's okay though. But yeah, my main character, I was a fool for not picking Yuna last round. I feel like an idiot, but luckily another spin-off / prequel. I'm not even picking a main story character from a main game because the bests have all gone, and I don't really love Cloud. I've already picked Gunbreaker. Zidane is an easy choice, but nah. Tidus is eh. So we're going with Zack from Crisis Core.
huh. It counts.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And actually, there's a really funny joke you can make here. If you look at the board, have a look and see what you can do. But yeah.
Oh yeah, Zach drafted Elena and Alana drafted Zach.
I know, right? But that was unintentional, I promise. But yeah, I have loved Zack Fair since basically Final Fantasy VII at this point. I think, like, I love I think Cloud's a great character and a really great protagonist, and a lot of the outside material has muddied that character to me a lot. But what I always appreciate is like the intertwining story between Cloud and Zack, and how Cloud takes on parts of Zack's personality and thinks he is Zack and everything like that. But then you get to see what Zack's like in play in Crisis Core, and for part of 7, I would say. And he is like this goofball, this like massive positive goofball who is like a first class. Well, he's a third class soldier at the time at the beginning of Crisis Core. And he's trying to be a first class soldier, or he's just reached first class, I think. And he's just trying his best. He wants to be a hero. He's dating Aerith, and him and Aerith have such a great relationship in Crisis Core, and I just love how like boundlessly positive he is. But he goes through some stuff and he has to see some really terrible things. The plot of Crisis Core is garbage, so irrespective of like what what happens or anything, whatever, it's like fan fiction at this point. But I do love the way he reacts and the way he develops from it and the way he like changes, and that you can see like this blend of like what Cloud becomes, and also like the way that Zack still doesn't really betray like this whole like positive uplifting side of him, but he's also like a mentor figure, so he feels that weight. He carries it really well throughout Crisis Core and in the scenes that you do see him in Final Fantasy VII. But yeah, Zack has been one of my favorite characters for a very long time for Final Fantasy, and in a way, I'm quite glad I actually managed to get to draft him instead of Yuna, even if Yuna is probably my second favorite Final Fantasy female character after Celes. So it's okay. Zack is a good pick still. I love him to death.
Yeah, now that they kind of come up side by side and you're describing him, like, I'm seeing a lot of crossover between Zack and Laguna as characters.
That's true, yeah. I
Exactly
like
the same
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
kind of both very competent leaders, but also kind of goofballs at the same time.
Yeah, it's a trope I fall for a lot, unfortunately. So
and interspersed in weird flashbacks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
true.
go. What the
Damn.
heck?
Oh my
I
god.
remember in
Square
the mid
plagiarized itself.
in the mid 2000s, the community
Pretty cool.
I was most active on online was a Final Fantasy website called Caves of Narsh.
Uh-huh.
And when they announced Crisis Core and that it was going to be a prequel starring Zack, all of the FF7 dorks on that site, including me, lost our damn minds.
Right. And
It was the exact character that isn't present in a huge amount of Final Fantasy VII, but is so important. And when you do sort of understand who Zack is, it looms so large that it's Zack is absolutely beloved and righteously so, even before Crisis Core existed.
right, and it's like a testament that you know what's going to happen at the end of Crisis Core, right? And this game spends like 20 hours like showing you what he is, and then the moment happens and it hits so hard.
My favorite part of Crisis Core, which is a game I like but don't love, is the Price of Freedom song at that scene is so killer. Oh
That's
man,
very good. Yeah,
has that been on Rhythm Encounter yet? Probably yes.
I would
But,
imagine so.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now anyway. But yeah, fantastic pick, Alana. Well, I guess we should move on to the next pick. Aleks, you have one left to go, and it is your flex. So it can be any character from a Square Enix or Square Enix game. Other than the let's see, 36 characters drafted so far in this episode.
So I'm actually looking to break the rules, but I think in a way that no one will be opposed to, in a way that makes sense. So, because in a way, this game is more Final Fantasy than a lot of Square stuff that came after, and I'm gonna draft Kai Marganar from Lost Odyssey.
Huh.
Because it's a Hironobu Sakaguchi character. I think checks
right.
out. That game is
Well-
very Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay. In the interest of annoying Zack, I'll allow it.
And that was another one of my intentions.
What?
as
I
well.
love Lost Odyssey.
You are lying to yourself in that other room.
Which it's funny because I see a lot of similarities between FF8 and Lost Odyssey, so I'm not surprised that someone who wouldn't be a fan of one is not quite a fan of the other. But Kaim is awesome. Like despite the kind of wooden performance of his voice actor, he's got one of the best and deepest backstories of any RPG character, and that's courtesy of the Thousand Years of Dreams short stories that you unlock through the game that are written by a real literary author and just are legit beautifully done and really flesh out that character in profound ways. He's been alive for 1,000 years, has all kinds of different experiences you get to hear about, from like being imprisoned and losing his mind to being a prison guard and having to deal with that, being in so many wars, helping out little towns that come under attack, and just witnessing all these different aspects of the tragedy and the beauty of mortality as an immortal being. And yeah, he's Final Fantasy as heck at the same time. And yeah, I think his whole backstory, as explained through the Thousand Years of Dreams, is a real highlight of that game. And yeah, Kaim rules.
I have not played Lost Odyssey, but I did listen to the episodes that you recorded a month or two ago. But I didn't know how to spell Kaim, so I was doing some background searching. I almost wrote down Kaim like in Fiddler on the Roof, L'chaim to life. But no, it's Kaim with a K. But I mean, whatever. You drafted Kaim and Zack drafted Kane, so it was as far as that just tells me that Zack loves Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, that's
That
not
makes
accurate at all.
sense.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, like I do think those Thousand Years of Dreams are like some of the best storytelling that has happened in RPGs. Period.
Mhm.
And I said that it's storytelling in an RPG when it's literally just like short stories, because there's no gameplay involved in Thousand Years of Dreams. It I have plenty of criticisms of the game, which you can go listen to or read my final thoughts or whatever. But I appreciate that you enjoy those enough to select Kime.
A nice way of putting it,
Oh,
Zach.
that comment was just dripping with shade. Well, Zach, I'm not sure how to transition this. You got one pick left, and it's your summon. What you got?
That's true. There's a lot of good options left. Bahamut is a possibility for me, but I feel like my team, as is common for me, is full of a lot of edge, and I can't think of an edgier summon than Anima from Final Fantasy X.
Oh my god.
Look at him.
Wow.
I mean, like, in all seriousness,
So
obviously,
disturbing.
I know, right? The Anima summon obviously is very powerful in Final Fantasy X, which is very cool. Like the whole background with Seymour and Seymour's mother and all that other stuff, is like genuinely disturbing outside of just the presentation of Anima itself, right? Um, and I love how unique it is, in terms of a Final Fantasy summon. Like there's nothing else quite like it, and nothing else feels like Anima, and it's imposing in a way that I feel like a lot of summons aren't, just because we see them so often. And so I think Anima is like super cool.
It's an amazing interpretation of the faith in Final Fantasy X as well. Like
Mhm.
you always see like the ways in which Bahamut is this kid that's following you around, and you see like the other representations of all the other Aeons, but like Anima is like the complete opposite of like willingness to be an Aeon, and it's like this manifestation of like pure hate and evil and hurt and pain, and Anima is totally busted. Like Anima just breaks the damage barrier without even like trying. And it's also just the coolest looking summon ever. Like, I can't believe you really just took the bit and just really went like, I'm gonna go really edgy, but I guess, that makes sense.
This is like
It's funny.
beyond edgy though. It's like it's just disturbing.
Anima does accomplish something that I find very impressive, and that's making Seymour interesting.
Uh-huh. I mean, Seymour is generally quite interesting,
Yeah,
but mostly
yes.
through Anima, I would say.
I think. I mean, I don't like Seymour as a villain. Mostly, he just gives me the creeps a little
Well,
bit.
that's the whole idea, I think. Yeah.
I mean, again, mission accomplished. Square Enix, or I still Square at the time, but Anima's backstory and its connection to Seymour is really fascinating, and actually makes Anima somewhat of a tragic figure in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, not in a way. Just it makes it a tragic figure.
She
But
is, yeah.
And yeah, if you're going for like edgelordy darkness, Zach, yeah, again, mission accomplished. So that's why you wanted Dark Knight and Clive.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanilla is the ray of hope.
But like in an edgy way. It's like cool.
Oh,
okay?
she's not that edgy. Go away. You don't deserve her.
Well, okay. Speaking of edges, I did have a plan for my draft. I noticed when I was playing Final Fantasy 16 and around the same time listening to the FF6 podcasts that y'all recorded not long ago, I realized that so many of my favorite Final Fantasy characters are just sword people that can use magic. So I wanted to see if I could just draft entirely swordsmen for this entire episode. And again, I wanted Celes and Yojimbo and a few others, but and I ended up mostly sticking to that rule. So but looking at my remaining options, there's a couple ways I could go. Torgal is still around, and I would love to have Clive's dog join him. A bunch of a bunch of Final Fantasy 14 characters are still available. I could go with I even drafted Rydia and Auron in the 2019 draft, and they're still around. I could do either of those, but no, you know what? I think I will go with a Final Fantasy 14 character, and this character technically doesn't use a sword, but they do. They were my favorite NPC in my favorite expansion, and also somehow predated any of the other major characters in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh,
I'm going with Ardbert.
yes.
Ardbert is first introduced as a villain, sort of, just after Heavensward. But even before that, Ardbert and his is basically the Warrior of Light stand-in in the earliest trailers for Final Fantasy XIV in 2010. But then they brought him back later to be an alternate dimension Warrior of Light that clashes with your own group. And in Shadowbringers, when you visit the dimension he's from, you the warriors of light from that dimension are sort of fallen hero characters that you have to not exactly redeem, but you sort of interact with their stories in a way that is completely unexpected from their role in that old FF10 2010 I'm sorry 2010 FF14 trailer, or their roles as minor villains in the Heavensward post game. But when you encounter Ardbert and you meet his you find out what happened to his former companions and his old Amaro mount Seto.
Oh
uh
God.
the Seto storyline, part of the storyline, absolutely annihilated me. And Lucas and Aleks, basically, this Shadowbringers character, his chocobo lived to be over 100 and gained the power of speech. And so from his old former partner, you find out what the Warrior of Light used to be like from the point of view of an animal that loved him.
That's fantastic.
It's completely heartbreaking and awesome. But I filled my whole team with people that could use swords and magic. Ardbert uses an axe. But he's sort of considered an everyman character, but with this really, really uh like sad and beautiful backstory that he is the FF14 character I think about the most, like going back to my times playing it. My other contenders were Ishtola, obviously I love her, Thancred. I thought about Grahatia, someone I like him a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
But just thinking about everyone I love in FF14. I also thought about Emmerich and Estinian, the two top tier Ellison boyfriends. Uh, but it had to be Ardbert. I like I weirdly miss him. It is the only way I can explain it. It's like he's an NPC that I miss seeing him around.
I do too.
I really am this close to resubbing to Final Fantasy XIV. It's sad, but not as sad as Ardbert's backstory.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my last pick of the episode. Lucas, you have the last pick of not only your team, but of anyone's team. You have your flex left to go, so it can be any character from a Square Enix, or Mistwalker game. And I'm presuming that it'll be someone with some kind of musical connection, but maybe I'm assuming too much. What's it going to be for your final pick, Lucas?
It is not only a character with some musical connection, it is the musical character from Squaresoft, especially in that era. I'm going with Nobuo Uematsu from the Chrono Trigger dev room.
Yep.
Wow.
That's amazing.
When you said you were pretty sure your flex pick was safe, you were so correct that it went to a place I didn't even imagine. Wow. So Nobuo Uematsu. He only wrote about about what, 20% or 1/4 of the songs in Chrono Trigger, but most of the Final Fantasy music for the first 15 plus years of its existence.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just go around the horn and let's each talk about a favorite track. Lucas, what you got?
Oh man, just gonna throw that out. I'm actually going to. I'll go with. I really like Realm's theme from Final Fantasy VI, and I think it's not one that gets brought up a lot.
That's a great one.
True.
I
Yeah.
love that.
When I think of a song that gives me a warm, cozy feeling, but also gives me a feeling of forward momentum that I like in a world map theme, "Over Those Hills" from Final Fantasy IX
Yeah.
just absolutely does it for me every time. That song's amazing.
I think the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is kind of whatever, but I really love Aerith's theme. I know it's like the most tired answer possible, but it's the truth.
This is another really generic answer, but I mean the FF6 opera scene is just such a masterful moment, both musically and for the way it's incorporated into the game. And I like if we're talking about Uematsu's just like musical achievements and how that's gelled with the game itself, like that's the highlight for me. But also a shout out to FF8's boss battle theme. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. Theme of Love from Final Fantasy IV is one of my favorite songs from the entire series. I've heard it played live at Distant Worlds, cried, heard various different versions of it, cry every time I hear it. I love that piece of music so much. More and more as I get older, so yeah.
Nobuo Uematsu, a crucial part of what Final Fantasy was for many, many years. And whatever your feeling on Final Fantasy is, whether it's whether it's the tone of the stories, the wild personalities of these characters, the music by Uematsu, the character designs by Nomura and others, um, it's a thing that is for many many good reasons probably the most popular RPG series in the world. And I think it was worth doing a second draft episode, even if the episode ended up being dangerously close to 3 hours. I hope that's cut down a little bit when all is said and done. Lucas, do you have any thoughts on Nobuo before we move into housekeeping?
I mean, I was debating between the two composers. They're both in the dev room, and I needed my pianist, and figure that brings the team together.
Mm-hmm.
I did see the Earthbound Papas live once, and Uematsu does play a mean keys. It's true. It was at Magfest in, oh shoot, I think 2014 or 15.
I've seen Shimomura play piano live, and it is incredible.
Oh, I'm
That sounds
jealous.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
Well, fortunately, these creators are still active and doing their thing, if not in quite as much volume as during their respective peaks. Um, and yeah, I mean, I was listening to Yoko Shimomura's Street Fighter music less than 24 hours ago. Um, But we did it, team. We made 5 teams of Final Fantasy characters, which leaves us one final task to do, and that is naming each of our teams. But before we get there, I'll give you some time to think and do a little bit of retro encounter cleanup for the first time in a while. Listeners, thank you so much for putting up with us for so long doing our Final Fantasy draft, and thank you so much, Aleks, Lucas, Alana, and Zach, for going through this thought exercise. And these drafts are always fun to do, and we always want to do more of them. I'm wondering if we can repeat this one. Maybe I can try to redeem myself on a new Suikoden draft by the time those remasters come out, or I don't know, maybe do uh, maybe I'll finally play Fire Emblem Engage and do one of those
Oh
next.
God.
That's a series with too many characters to properly draft. But let's talk. But we're not doing Fire Emblem or more Final Fantasy next in Retro Encounter. We're doing 2 episodes on on no. Last week we did 2 episodes. Last month we did 2 episodes on Final Fantasy VI. Next month we are doing 2 episodes on Disco Elysium. That um computer RPG style detective game with no systemic combat, but a lot of stats and manipulation and a lot of fascinating narrative ideas. I'm not going to be on those episodes because I'll be traveling out of the country for a large part of August. But Zach, I know that you are really excited to record those. We've talked about them a
Oh
little a
yes,
little bit off mic, and I'm really interested to see how those turn out.
yeah. I mean, it's a game I've wanted to play for a long time, so I'm super jazzed to talk to people about it.
Excellent. And listeners, if you're super jazzed to talk to us, whether it's about Final Fantasy VI or Disco Elysium or character drafts or Retro Encounter in general, the best way to reach us is retro@rpgfan.com. You can also find RPG Fan on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, Twitch, always called either RPG Fan or RPG Fancom, with something going on one of those places at any time. There's also the RPG Fan shop at rpgfan.com/shop, where you can buy RPG Fan apparel, accessories, a lot of different things emblazoned with the Emerald Shield. There's also 2 other fine podcasts on RPG Fan: Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness and current RPGs, Rhythm Encounter about RPG and video game music, with those 2 alternating Mondays, and Retro Encounter on every other Thursday. You can review Retro Encounter or Random Encounter or Rhythm Encounter on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or however you prefer to listen to podcasts. Please leave whatever feedback you prefer, especially if it's 5 stars out of 5. But before we introduce ourselves by social media profiles, we should introduce ourselves with our Final Fantasy team names. So does anyone have theirs that they'd like to volunteer for the rest of the class?
Oh, I do. My team name is To the Edge.
Oh God.
Oh,
That's pretty
Wow.
good, all right.
And
It is.
we
Yeah,
even
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
the Soken song earlier this episode.
yeah.
No, it's
Wow.
good. It's good.
My team is obviously the Ultros 8.
Hey.
Wow. That actually fits remarkably. Not only are there 8 bandmates, if you count Sylph as one.
I was just gonna say, technically there's 3 Sylphs, which throws it off a little, but
it's also the
we
number
don't
of
worry about it.
It's also the number of Ultros' tentacles.
It's true.
And you know, I think when he says "ouch seafood soup," I think the Japanese line is "ouch takoyaki," and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
I did
I'm
not
gonna be
know
eating.
that. That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna be eating a non-trivial amount of takoyaki in a few weeks.
I
let me
would
tell you.
I would eat a dangerous amount of takoyaki if I was in Japan, so I don't blame you.
It's my first time going, and hopefully not the last. But I'll give my my answer now. And again, I was just like telling a dumb like 8-bit theater swords joke for this whole episode. So I'm gonna call my team World of Swordcraft.
Oh God.
Welcome to town.
But Alex and Alana, what are your team names? Whoever would like to go first.
So I'm looking at my list, and you know, I got Noctis there, and you know, Barrett's got a bit of that Gladio vibe. Laguna has a bit of Prompto and Ignis in him, so you know, I got the boys, but I also got Yuna. So I think my team is just going to be the boys featuring good female character.
The boys feature good female character. And Alana, your team name has also features a good female character, but that name's already taken. What are you going with?
I feel bad I've only got one female character now. That's not good. But it's just going to be Embrace Our Dreams.
Embrace our dreams. Yeah, it looks like we have the most lady representation from. Does Anima count? I'm not sure.
She is female, technically. Yeah.
I guess Zach, you have the most lady representation on any of our teams. Congratulations.
Yay.
Right, I think you're tied with Lucas.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know what? It's not important. What's important is that listeners, we had a great time drafting Final Fantasy characters with you. We hope you had a great time listening to us. But before we sign off, let's introduce our social medias, starting with you, Alana.
I don't have any anymore. Sorry, but
I am so jealous.
I mean, it's there, but I don't use it anymore. But you can find my work on NintendoLife.com if you so wish, where I still toot my RPG fan horn pretty regularly. So go for it.
Excellent. Do you ever get any kind of site recognition when you do that?
I do, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I have had some, especially my Trails reviews. People like, oh, it's that person. I'm like, yep.
Fantastic. Now, Alex, your turn.
You can just email me at alexfraniczek@gmail.com, and the spelling's a bit unique, so you can look that up in my bio on the site.
Or in the show notes, even.
Or yeah, there you go.
Zach, how can listeners find you?
You can email me, ZachW@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on our Discord at ZachW.
Now, Lucas, you have a very specific social media presence related to the website.
I do. In addition to being one of the people who's probably answering you on the RPG fan social medias, I am also on Twitter at Raefgal, Raefgall, and you can also find me on YouTube that way.
Thank you, Lucas. And listeners, if you want to find me, I am probably easiest to find on Twitter, although I hate that website more every day. I am at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times, and on RPG Fans Discord server, I am called Monsoon Mike. So, thank you so much from the Ultros 8, World of Swordcraft, To the Edge, The Boys featuring good female character, and Embrace Our Dreams. Thank you, good night, and good